Stephonics is literally just like hitting the levels of parasocial that previously people had never heard of before.
Goddamn! What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone's having a fantastic evening, afternoon, pre-noon, no matter where you are in the world. I'm Hassan Piker, and this is the broadcast coming to you live from shitty weather, California, Los Angeles, folks. We're live and alive, and I hope all the boys, girls, and enemies are having a fantastic one because today's a beautiful day. It is 59 degrees and not so sunny here in California, Los Angeles. I'm Hassan Piker. This is the Hasanabi broadcast, folks. We're live from sunny Los Angeles, live from cloudy Los Angeles, California. And I hope all the boys, girls, and enemies are having a fantastic one because today's a beautiful day. Today's a wonderful day. Today is Thursday. It's Thirsty Thursday, folks. Thursday, December 12th, 2024. We are close to actual Christmas. We got Christmas is in 2 weeks, man. That's crazy. How did this happen? The year is ending already. I don't understand it. Okay, this is part of the broadcast where I tell you about my personal news, though, before I get to anything else. And personal news-wise, a lot has happened in the universe of Hasanabi Piker. I am big chillin', actually. What did I do last night? I ended the broadcast. I went back home, spent a little bit of time with my family, and I passed out. I passed out instantly almost. And also fully equipped with the knowledge that the night prior I had done something important. Folks, personal news-wise, not much going on in the world. I woke up early. I'm late because I had to do some big business deals, as always, you know. It's constantly people that want a piece, you know. All right. Where was I? What was I going to talk about? There's a lot to cover today. All right, let's get started with the news. Trump named time of the year, person of the year.
United States, ringing the bell, and he's got to be excessively happy because we know he likes to collect magazine covers. Right. But now he doesn't have to mock one up. For the second time, he is Time Magazine's Person of the Year. To me, there are other contenders, but if they did anything but name him, that would be flat out biased.
Well, so Time.com has just released that, and I'm looking at the actual article, and it's great. It said, and the subheadline is, "If what comes next is anything like what he promises, Trump will reshape the nation and the world." And that is why so many people, according to polls, which we're going to get into very shortly.
Dude, they're trying to be doing the same exact thing that they did with Hitler again. You know what I mean? Not wrong, but in a good way. No, I mean they're not wrong in a bad way for sure. Like, they're not wrong. Also, there's a bunch of stuff from the interview where apparently he admits prices likely won't go down, won't rule out war with Iran, says he agrees with Sarah McBride, and doesn't want to talk about the trans bathroom issue. Yeah. That's because he is a room reader and understands that the trans panic shit does not work. It's sweaty and gross loser shit. I will forever stand by that. I know that things change and attitudes change and culture shifts, but the problem is, for many Americans, they just don't give a fuck about trans people like that. It only works if you know, it only works if people can just be like, look at these silly goofy ass Democrats that don't give a fuck about fixing the prices. They only care about giving free trans surgeries to Latinx people or whatever. You know what I mean? Most people just don't give a shit. The sweaty fucking loser constituency that only cares about trans people are very, they're marginal. They're loud, but they're marginal. They're just popping off online.
People are really up.
Everyone I don't like is Hitler. Bro, come on now. I mean, come on now. You can make it. If you can't say Trump's got some Hitlerian politics, who the fuck can you call Hitler? Latinx is not real, bro. I know. I'm that's a joke. Anytime you hear me say fucking Latinx, know that I'm memeing, okay? Dude. Who the fuck can we say it has exhibited Hitlerian qualities, if not if not a guy who is just like, who fucking ran on saying, I'm going to do concentration camps to deport 20 million people. It's crazy, man. It's wild.
About the next 4 years. Look, over the last 4 years, things have not gone well. And people are ready for something new, something better.
He was Time Magazine's Person of the Year in 2016 when he won that election. Also up for the other contenders were Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, Kate Middleton, and Kamala Harris. But
and Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well,
that's right.
It's hard to believe that the election was just last month. And I mean,
feels like he's already the president, right?
Exactly. I mean, and to Joe Biden's credit, he's essentially stepped out of the way and allowed Donald Trump to start doing what he's doing right now. And I think when you look at the other people that were considered, he was the only choice. I mean, you can't have Kamala Harris that lost the election, then become the person of the year.
But by the way, as Trump moved in, he has Steve Witkoff over with in the Middle East. He's got Tom Homan working the border, doing his appearances. Already. So he's got that going. The President of the United States got rid of the FBI director, put so much pressure on him. He actually saluted.
I can't believe it's only been a month. I actually cannot believe it's only been a month since this happened, because it feels like a lifetime ago. Like, it literally feels like it was a year ago that the election happened. And goddamn, dude.
Saluted the moment that he set aside. Great day for America. And then he's got his nominees stealing out of the spotlight in Capitol Hill. So they're following him around.
And he's already calling the Prime Minister of Canada, meeting with him. He's already calling the
But Ainsley, you know what's different now?
What?
It's not really Trump tweeting or going. It's kind of like the things he's doing rather than the things he's saying.
Action.
You think he learned from mistakes 4 years ago?
I don't know. I think it's definitely intentional. I also don't think he's not in the middle of an investigation. No one's questioning the authenticity of his election. No. They're not talking about Michael Flynn making a call from Puerto Rico and them saying he's talking to the Russians about some secret deal to toss the country.
Even Fetterman was tweeting on Truth Social. I think he's the first Democratic lawmaker to get on Truth Social, and tweeted out that Donald Trump should be pardoned for the case here in New York.
You know what, Ainsley, to your point about why he's doing things differently last time, I think last time when he won, it was kind of a surprise. It's like, okay, I ran for a year, but I won. Now what do I do?
Yeah, it was a surprise because Americans were kind of oblivious to the ways in which America operates, okay? Many Americans were oblivious to the anger and resentment that a lot of people felt towards these institutions that ruined their lives. And many Americans were like, oh, they'll never vote for this like racist charlatan. There's no way. And Americans were like, nah, dog, that guy is just like me for real. He's talking like me and he's walking like me. And I think part of that shock came from the broadest subsects of society that still were laser focused on mainstream media as their primary source of information, that I think were deluding themselves into a different America than the one that actually exists. One where people do have reverence for the institutions, if that makes sense. And it's not. That's not the America that we live in. And that's part of the reason why I don't think there's going to be a revamp of the... that's why I don't believe that there's going to be a revamp of like the hashtag resistance liberalism that happened immediately after Trump got elected the first time. What I mean by this is it was a shock for a lot of liberals who got a wake-up call and were like, we got to do something against this. We got to do something for it. And then they did, and then they protested, and not many things changed, right? Like nothing really changed. A lot of young people, I talked about this quite a bit in 2020. I think a lot of young people's first foray into political action was literally direct action. In the midst of COVID, there's a lot of panic, there's a lot of anger, and they see police brutality. They consider it to be unacceptable. They take it to the fucking streets. And then what came of that mass mobilization? Nothing. And when that happens, When that happens and you get nothing after doing all of it, that you go out and you vote for the right guy and nothing changes. You go out and you march, you go out and you protest, you fuck shit up and nothing changes. Yeah, at that point, you're going to be like, well, I'm a little disillusioned by this process. That's the problem, you know?
He's done it once
Yeah,
before.
that's true.
Some mistakes are always made along the way, but he's figured out how he has wanted to do it more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, so good.
And Elise Stefanik, by the way, got the Fetterman endorsement yesterday. That's the first time I've seen a Democrat come out and say that. Yeah, and they took a picture together.
And to your point about Joe Biden just laying low, he's not doing anything except an historic number of pardons and commutations. Over 1,500 issued this morning.
I don't think he's going to give us any comment about that.
I don't think so either.
Anyway, we're calling this the Trump effect, and it is in full swing. The last Fox News poll of the year is showing that the majority of voters feel hopeful about his victory, 54%.
That's right. And with under 6 weeks until Inauguration Day on January 20th at noon, plans are well underway, including an invitation to the China president, Xi Jinping, to show up live in Washington. If he accepted, he would be the first foreign leader to ever attend.
Is that right? That's right.
Bro, he's going to make a MAGA communist out of me. I swear to God. I swear to Christ, dude. Yo, what are you doing, man? Oh, God. His love for, like, strong men is so crazy. Bro, they're championing this like it's a good thing, as if their viewers don't hate China. No, I mean, but Trump thinks it's a good thing because Trump is like, I'm very strong on China, but also at the same time, not only he's very strong on China, but also he likes the strongman aspects of Chinese governance. He likes that Xi is a strong man. Like he likes him for the wrong reasons, I guess, kind of. Like he doesn't like the centralized power for the broad, 15, 20-year agendas that can dramatically improve the material conditions of like Chinese people with like even development and stuff like that. But he likes it for the mass surveillance apparatus and the fact that like maybe he looks at it and he's like, well, you guys are really cleaning our pockets with your economy. I don't like it. And they worship you. They worship you over there. I want them to worship me.
The first foreign
I'm
leader
hoping
to ever attend.
it's in the script.
Okay. And Trump's inaugural fund getting a boost from a surprising source from Mark Zuckerberg.
This is only a surprising source if you're a fucking idiot, okay? This is the least surprising revelation. I've been saying this. It's only surprising if you're like, oh, I don't understand. We've been lying and saying Mark Zuckerberg is woke for the last 4 years when it's very clear that he was never actually woke. He's a fucking billionaire. Of course he wasn't woke. They're like, oh, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that the company, the social media billionaire that is responsible perhaps for the most active right-wing QAnon radicalization is paying the piper, is bending the knee to the guy that he thinks is very cool. Of course, these guys are going to kiss the ring. Of course, they want favorable deals. They know Trump will play ball if they kiss that ring. Trump is not like a super petty, super vindictive guy. I don't think he's not. He's a narcissist. You give him his flowers and he's going to be like, great. I love that.
Meta donating $1 million as the tech billionaire looks to mend ties with Trump. Because remember, he took him off of Facebook in 2021 and then put him back on a few years later. That tells you a lot that they're mending their relationship.
Yeah. He grew his hair out and he started doing jiu-jitsu. I don't know if it's related.
No more
and he wanted to take on Elon Musk and it never happened.
Yeah, he's trying to look more like Danny Penny, perhaps. Also, remember, the Zuckerbucks in those key districts made him put his hand on the scale with a shadow banning of conservative groups and conservative politicians. And he's not the only.
I think it's kind of crazy because so much of virtually every single thing this guy just said, this is Remember, this is the most popular news network in the United States of America. Okay? And virtually every single thing that man just said, Brian Kilmeade, every single thing he said is just a straight up lie. Okay? There is no other way to tackle the issue without just addressing that he is just lying. Like the Zuckerbucks, or the fact that Facebook was actively suppressing conservative opinions. This is a falsehood. Spend any time on Meta products. Spend any time on Facebook, and you will very quickly understand that this is just a straightforward lie, okay? Facebook is filled to the brim with the most insane right-wing sentiment. Right-wing content creators on the news tab on Facebook have consistently dominated. Back when I was a Facebook content creator for the Young Turks, I couldn't believe I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like, these guys were actively going to Congress and saying Facebook is suppressing us, Facebook is silencing us, Facebook is blacklisting us, right? When in fact they weren't doing that at all, okay? They were not doing that at all. In that process, while they were cry-bullying Facebook to get more favorable algorithmic outcomes for themselves, they were already dominating the algorithm, okay? They were already dominating. And they never stopped dominating the algorithm. They've always dominated the algorithm. But what happened in that process is that they turned around and they hired right-wing Republicans. Okay, here, Facebook's top 10s. Yep. Facebook top 10s, a bot that posts the source of the top 10 performing links. This is on October 7, 2020. The top performing link posts on U.S. Facebook pages in the last 24 hours are from Dan Bongino, Fox News, Fox News, Fox News, Donald Trump for president, Fox News. Number 7, TMZ. Number 8 is CNN. Number 9 is NPR. Number 10 is CNN. And they still, at this time, were complaining about how much Facebook was suppressing the truth, how much Facebook was suppressing right-wing sentiment. This was never a real thing. You understand? Republicans are so good at creating fake grievances, leaning on those fake grievances, and then creating an environment where they make everybody believe these fake grievances, and then use Congress to basically bully these massive institutions, these big-ass social media companies, in an effort to get even more favorable results than the ones that they already have. This is kind of similar to the way that right-wing grievances in the sphere of like Christian nationalism works, right? Most people understand that the idea that like Christianity and Christian thoughts are being suppressed in the United States of America is fucking stupid. Like the war on Christmas shit, right? Everybody laughs at this. But the real reasons why the Republicans actually run with this falsehood is because it's not necessarily that Christianity is being suppressed. The reason why they go with this grievance politics is because they match up some kind of like oppression, some kind of anti-Christianity oppression with gay people existing, with women being able to get abortions. It's a way to reframe restrictions that they want to implement it's a way to propagandize their position. It's a way to reframe the restrictions that they actually want to implement on others by saying, no, we don't want to restrict other people's freedoms. It's just that you're restricting my freedom. Okay? That's it. And it's the same process here where it's like, it's not that the right is being silenced. That's not real. They just made it up. But the real reason why they say that is so that they get even more favorable algorithmic boosts. That is the main purpose of this, and it works. That's how they get Congress to bully Facebook and maybe even threaten Facebook with like trust busting, for example, so that Facebook will then turn around and bring forward right-wing people. Yeah, exactly. Work the referees. Thank you. Man Plan 80. They work the referees a little bit so that they go and they hire, Heritage Foundation people to do their content moderation. That's the real purpose here. And they have done that. They've been doing this since like 2016. right? Like, it's not new. It's not new at all. They had like people from Tucker Carlson's Daily Caller doing moderation on Facebook. It's ridiculous, you know? And let's finish this up and then we'll move on to that.
Differences aside, Democratic Senator John Fetterman joining Truth Social to, quote, meet folks where they are, especially in Pennsylvania, by the way, and calling to pardon Trump in his very first post. He also mentioned Hunter.
And
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart.
Well, thank you very much. This is an honor, a tremendous honor. I brought some of our compatriots along with us. They're going to do a beautiful job for you for the next 4 years. And it's really been something very special. And I have to say, Time Magazine getting this honor for the second time. I think I like it better this time, actually. But we did a good job. We had a great first term, despite a lot of turmoil caused unnecessarily. But the media's tamed down a little bit. They're liking us much better now, I think. If they don't, we'll have to just take them on again, and we don't want to do that. But I do want to thank Time Magazine. I've been on the cover many times. I don't know who has the record, but I can only probably talk well about 25%.
Hitler. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. How many times did Times Magazine choose Hitler as the man of the year? They have chosen Stalin a bunch of times as well, so maybe it's Stalin. RFK Jr. looks like a processed corpse because he is having the greatest food that you could possibly consume. FDR has 3%
of the covers. 25% are great. The others I just sort of hide. But it's been an honor, and every time it's an honor, I will tell you. And thank you very much for doing it. And thank the whole group at Time. Really very professional people. Thank you very much. And to Jeff and all of the people from the New York Stock Exchange, he knows how much I like it because many years ago I bought a...
All right, let's talk about some of the stuff that he mentioned in this interview. Yeah, you had an extraordinary year. Glaze, okay? Flawless campaign. I call it 72 days of fury. There were no days off, no timeouts. If you made a mistake, it would be magnified at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We hit something that was very special. We hit the nerve of the country. They don't want to see jails emptied out into our country. They don't want to see people from mental institutions being dismissed from their institutions. Mr. President, what did Democrats not get? You said they didn't get it. What do you mean by that? I don't think they got the feel of the country. The country was angry because of immigration, because of the people, millions and millions of people. No. This is one of the most frustrating parts about like how successful propagandizing works. The country is angry. This is correct. It's just that the Republicans recognize that anger and redirect that anger towards immigrants. That's it. But the country is angry because of the economy. And the immigrants are not actually contributing to the economy in negative ways. As a matter of fact, they're contributing to the economy in positive ways. That's the unfortunate problem here, that only one side, at least, recognizes the anger and then channels that anger to appropriate vectors of hate. Vectors that are inoffensive to the current existing hierarchies, just to confuse people, just to divide people, just to turn around and say like, yeah, no, it's not the wealthy, it's not the rich that are fucking you over. It's actually the migrants. And that's it. Anyway, they were saying much lesser number. It wasn't a much lesser number, but even if it was, it's irrelevant because if it was, they were allowing anybody to come into the country. They are right now. They open it up again. You see what's going on. They're coming. They're pouring up through Mexico and other places. It's common sense, yada, yada, yada. They want to see people come in. They don't want to see, you can have, and this is one, they don't want to see, as another example, open borders. They want to see people come in. Everyone's okay with it. I am certainly. I want to have a lot of people coming because we're going to bring back a lot of jobs. We'll bring record numbers of jobs. Anyway, the economy was certainly a big factor in your victory, but what was a bigger factor, I believe, was the border. I think the border, and I won it in 2016 on the border. I fixed the border. It was really fixed. They came in, dislodged everything. It's the border. I want to come back to immigration a little bit later. Let's start out on what's happening right now. You were elected on a promise to change Washington. By all accounts, the fight over that has already begun. One of your nominees was effectively blocked by the Senate. There are other senators who expressed doubts about some of your other nominees. Well, I don't think they will. And he wasn't blocked. I had the votes if I needed them. but I had to work very hard. He's talking about Gates. So you decided to give up on Gates? No, I didn't give up on him. I talked to him and I said, you know, Matt, I don't think this is worth the fight. Okay, he talks about how it's not worth the fight for Matt Gaetz. You know, that's so he is conceding on that front. You met in person with Gates and had 5 hard-nosed senators. Not with the senators there. No, I called those senators. My relationship with the Senate is very good. Many of them I endorsed. Yada, yada, yada. I really don't care how they get them approved as long as they get them approved. It's up to the Senate. Will you commit to honoring Senate's authority to reject or confirm? Well, sure. I want him to do that. I don't think there's too many. I don't think that, look, everybody has. That's why they have menus in restaurants. Okay. I understand immigrants overall lead to economic growth, but is there specific data on illegal immigrants specifically? I mean, that is the same. Undocumented immigrants do lead to economic growth. It's the same as documented immigrants, but it's even more economic growth. The problem is our mistreatment of undocumented migrants is the real issue. Not processing them is the real issue. We just like hyper exploit them. And that also causes that also is a depressive force on overall wages in the country. Because if people can get away with like paying pennies on the dollar to a random person that has no legal recourse, no way to fucking defend themselves, then they will do that. If you truly wanted to stop the invasion of undocumented migrants or whatever, you would be punishing the people that hire them. Except we don't do that because the reason why there is a concept such as undocumented immigrants in the United States of America, the reason why we don't actually process these people and like allow them to work as documented laborers in the American structure is so that we can exploit them, so that we can keep them working at pennies on the dollar and fucking trailer parks and shit. It's basically just indentured servitude. That's the reason why we have a 2-tiered labor structure in this country. It's super cheap. It's not enough that even if someone was coming from a much poorer country, there would still be, even if someone was coming from a poorer country, there would still be a tremendous amount of people that are willing to work for much cheaper, right? Anyway, one of them is controversial. I want to ask a specific question. RFK Jr., noted vaccine skeptic. We're going to have a big discussion. The autism rate is at a level nobody ever believed possible. If you look at the things that are happening, there's something causing it. Do you think it's linked to vaccines? No, I'm going to be listening to Bobby, who I've really gotten along with great and have a lot of respect for. Okay? For having to do with food, having to do with vaccinations. He does not disagree with vaccinations, all vaccinations. He disagrees probably with some. So that could include getting rid of some vaccinations. It could if I think that's dangerous, if I think that they're not beneficial, but I don't think it's going to be very controversial in the end. Do you agree with him about the connection between vaccines and autism? I want to see the numbers. It's going to be the numbers. Trump personally also believes that vaccines cause autism. He's talked about it before. He's like, you know, he's talked about it, but he's also done Operation Warp Speed. So I think when push comes to shove, he will do what is beneficial. Okay? He will do what is beneficial. But that doesn't mean that he's not going to dial back on some of this other stuff because like his base loves it. It's like red meat to the base, and he will give that red meat to the base every single time. Mr. President, some foreign officials have expressed concern about sharing intelligence with Tulsi Gabbard given her position and support in Syria. I'm surprised to hear because I think she is like a really great American. Hey, look, they said I was friendly with Russia until they saw the tapes, and they said, you know, he's not actually. He was the one that ended the Russian pipeline, Nord Stream 2. Okay, no one says that. People still think he's friendly with Russia, even though he goes back and forth on it. So I don't know. I'm surprised to hear it. Thank you. But yeah, wait, what? No, that's generous. Thank you. By the way, do you want hors d'oeuvres or anything? No, that's generous. Thank you. You sure? Yes, but thank you. If you learn that foreign officials are withholding intelligence because she is the head of your intelligence, would that change your calculus? I don't know. I'm surprised to hear it. I heard that the first time the other day. I mean, she's a great American. Okay, I don't care about this. Project 2025. No, look, I don't disagree with everything in Project 2025, but I disagree with some things. I specifically didn't want to read it because it was under my auspices, and I want to be able to say that, you know? The only way I can say I have nothing to do with it is if I don't read it. It's also because I don't know how to read. Yeah, he's going to do Project 2025. Okay? It's a lot of pages. 800 pages. That's a lot of pages.
I thought it was inappropriate that they came out with it just before the election, to be honest with you. They should have waited until I won. Then I would do it. I let them know, yeah, I didn't think it was appropriate because it's not me. Why would they do that? Did you express those frustrations? Oh, I did. Okay, I don't care. Bandit MD11, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. And also on top of that, he's saying he's going to basically utilize like whatever he can to enforce these insanely violent processes that he wants to implement. And I'll only do what the law allows, but I will go up to the maximum level of what the law allows. And I think in many cases, the sheriffs and law enforcement is going to need help. We'll also get the National Guard. If you can't negotiate agreements with the receiving governments and none seem receptive, will you of necessity have to hold these detained migrants in camps? I'll get them into every country, or we won't do businesses. So you won't need to build more detention facilities. No, because look, we may have to do it anyway. Because look, they brought in millions of people, and many of those people, yep, right here, he's just like openly recognizing, yes, we're going to have to build camps. You look at prison populations, what's happening all over the world except here. No, I can't even conceive of why they would allow criminals. Why would somebody do that? Why would somebody do that? So you're saying there won't be new camps, more camps to hold detained migrants. Well, there might be. Now, this is a question that I knew the answer to. Okay. Of course, there were going to be concentration camps. Like, you can't deport people without detaining them. And you can't detain people without putting them in concentration camps. That's it. Whatever it takes to get them out. I don't care, honestly. Whatever it takes to get them out. So for me to say this is Hitlerian is not an exaggeration. It's just an accurate understanding of Hitler and fascism in general. This is how it starts. Again, I'll do absolutely everything within the confines of the law, but if it needs new camps, but I hope we're going to need too many because I want to get them out. And I don't want them sitting in the camp for the next 20 years. I want them out. And the countries have to take them back. And if they don't take them back, we won't do business with those countries. And we'll tariff those countries very substantially. When they send products in, they will have substantial tariffs, and it's going to make it very hard for them to do business with us. A question on the minds of a lot of Americans. Will you restore the policy of separating families? I don't think I won't have to do it because, first of all, it wasn't my policy. It was Obama's policy. I didn't build the jails for children. He did. And it's like kind of weird that he says that because, okay, so you don't have an issue with it, though. So you agree with Obama, I guess. Like, I don't understand. I've never understood this argument where, like, you're saying Obama built the camps, which you're right. He did, right? But I was critical of Obama building that, and I was critical of Obama continuing to implement some form of family separation. But Trump put it into overdrive, as always. So why are you even bringing up the fact that Obama did it? Like, it's just such a stupid way to deflect because, okay, so if it's something that you disagreed with, I mean, if it's like, are you bringing this up because you disagree with Barack Obama? No, you agree with Barack Obama. Okay, what does that say? I don't want to litigate the past. I'm just asking if you will do this. Well, you said your policy. This was a policy of the country. I don't believe we'll have to because we will send the whole family back. Yeah. He also says we're going to do concentration camps, but we're not going to do child separation because we're going to pack up the kids too. As in, we're going to put the children in the concentration camps. Does that help you understand the situation a little bit better? Was there another form of governance that happened not that long ago? Perhaps perhaps almost 100 years ago. Well, I guess, closer than that. Less than 100 years ago, where there was a policy of putting everyone in camps, including the children. An important fact to note here is that 1 in 15 families in the United States of America are mixed status families, as in 1 in 15 homes need to be broken into by the federal government or the National Guard or federal agents like BORTAC units, demanding their paperwork, asking other homes if they have undocumented migrants that they're housing, doing dragnets with the express purpose of putting all of those people, men, women, children, into these concentrated camps. Raids at workplaces, raids in towns. I'm just saying, like, this is something that he is signaling he's going to do. It was his signature policy that he said he was going to do. Deport them together? I would much rather deport them together, yes, than separate. By the way, when you talk about separation, we have 325,000 children here during Democrats, and this was done by the Democrats who are right now sex slaves or dead, and they were all allowed. Many of the people who voted for you, as you mentioned moments ago, cited high prices, particularly of food and groceries. If you deport millions of migrant agricultural workers, won't the food prices rise sharply? No, because we're going to let people in. But we have to let them in legally. We don't want people to come in from jails. We don't want the jails of Venezuela and many other countries. Anyway, getting back to this. No, because we're going to let people in. We're going to have to let them in legally. Your transition co-chair, Howard Lutnick, said your appointees will be vetted for loyalty. Are you going to ask appointees take a loyalty pledge? He doesn't have to do that. If they don't follow your orders, will you fire them? If I think it's appropriate, I'd fire them. That makes sense. Okay. Does that go for civil servants? You put Elon Musk in charge of Doge, along with Vivek Ramaswamy, but on Musk specifically given the power to oversee agencies that regulate his companies. Isn't that a conflict of interest? I don't think so. Yeah. He doesn't care. It's pure graft. It is in the purest sense of the word, a conflict of interest. There's no questions about this. Okay. I mean, that's it. You got a billionaire who owns multiple companies who are being investigated by the regulatory agencies, and now he's in charge. He has influence over said regulatory agencies. That's it. That's a conflict of interest. He doesn't give a shit, though. But Elon Musk is talking about cuts that would directly affect NASA, which would then directly affect SpaceX's company. Isn't that the textbook definition of a conflict of interest? I think that Elon puts the country long before his company. That's fucking so false. It's so obviously false. Like, yeah, dude, totally. Elon Musk definitely puts country over interest. What a ridiculous crock of shit. It's just like, the craziest part about it is not that Trump says this, but also people believe it. You know what I mean? How do people believe this nonsense? I just don't understand it. Like, how the fuck does anyone turn around and say, yeah, I believe it. This is real. Yeah, this is a good billionaire. This is a good CEO. He's our guy. God, Americans are so dumb, dude. What do you plan to do? I mean, I'll give you an example. We want to move the schools back to the States. We want to, he's talking about abolishing the Department of Education. A virtual closure of the Department of Education in Washington. Virtual closure, where you're going to need some people just to make sure they're teaching English in the schools. Okay, English and mathematics, let's say. It's great. It's great to have the absolute dumbest people in charge of making America even dumber. And then 10 years down the line, we will look back at this and go, how the fuck did we drop the ball so hard? How do we drop the ball so hard? Look, and then he always brings up Norway. He'll bring up Norway, sometimes even China. Like, he brought up Norway and China in a conversation where he was like, look, they're beating us. And it's like, yeah, they are. Except it's the exact opposite, because they have a centralized structure and a focus on making sure educational outcomes are as even as possible. That can only be done through a public system. This is what is so frustrating. As a high school teacher, this will, one, completely get rid of special education funding, allow states to essentially privatize quality schooling, cause way more pushback than he thinks. I think we're so cooked. Like, I don't know. It's just, we are making the country shit. We are straight up. But yeah, he's talking about, like, a closure of the Department of Education and bringing it back to the states. Like, decentralization of this sort is genuinely terrifying, I think. Like, what we need is more funding for public education and none of this, like, public-private partnership. Last question on your transition. If you decline to sign the ethics agreement as a part of, I don't know anything about it, the ethics document, I don't know. I would sign an ethics document. Will you disclose who the donors are to your transition, to my campaign? No, paying for the transition. There will be an announcement on that this week. I really have no problem disclosing anything. That's great, Mr. President. Just so you know, I heard this a couple days ago. I have no problem. I'd rather disclose it right up front. I have no problem with it. I've got a question for you about the campaign. Was there a moment when you thought you would lose? I like not to think of that. The power of positive thinking, right? But there were some moments when, there were some bad things done in my campaign. There were a lot of fake polls. They were absolutely fake. Look at an example. Very good pollster in Iowa. Gold standard in Iowa. And then a couple weeks before the election, she had me up 4 And then that brought it way down below 1918. That was a big story because I was only up 4 when she did that, where I was down 3. And that became headlines all over the place just before the election. When you saw that, did you think you were going to lose? I thought it was a wrong poll because we had an Emerson poll that had us up 18, you know. What was the darkest moment? I think we have an obligation with the 60 Minutes interviews my opponent. There's a news program. Speaking of Kamala Harris, what do you think her worst mistakes was? Taking the assignment, number 1, because you have to know what you're good at. Did she make any tactical mistakes? I think that when she wouldn't talk to anybody, it shone a light on her. In other words, if she would have gone out and just did interviews that are comparable to Steve, if there's anybody comparable would say, could you do an interview here, an interview there? You know, she didn't do anything. Oh my God, he's not wrong. And people said, is there something wrong with her? Why would they? I mean, I'm doing this interview with you. I did interviews with, if I had the time, anybody that would ask, I'd do interviews. I watched the whole thing, sir. Yes. Oh, good. I hope you liked it. But I found it to be a pleasure to do it. It's not like he did that. He did. Trump went on so many podcasts. He went on, guys, one thing that I always talk about with respect to Donald Trump and the way he campaigns is he will go on. He went on Aiden Ross's kick stream, chat. What are we talking about? He went, at the time, he didn't just go on Joe Rogan or Theo Vaughn or any number of different podcasts, but he also would go on like random Republican news shows that were getting like 12,000 views. Okay? Like, if you recall, I talked about this on a couple different occasions. If there is a place that Donald Trump could secure 10 votes, 20 votes, 1,000 votes, he will go out and get it. He will go out and get it. Whether they are the Amish or whether they are a random Native American tribe, you know, he will go out and he will meet them where they're at. He will min-max. Exactly. Maximum efficiency. He'd do a local radio interview in a town with a population of 3,000 if he believed that at least half of them would vote for him. Exactly. Exactly. And he did do that because he was interested in winning. Yeah. An example that we use quite frequently is the lobster people in Maine. Exactly. The issue here, however, for Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump is that Donald Trump can do that because he's a telegenic figure. He's a TV personality. He knows how to do that. Kamala Harris does not know how to do that. I'm not convinced that there is someone else who can emulate that in the Republican Party, by the way. I don't think J.D. Vance is that guy. And here is some of that impact, I mean, that they're recognizing as well. Here is the Deal Book Summit that the New York Times is hosting, where it's just like a bunch of media personalities that are talking about like how badly they fucked up and how badly they understand the current ecosystem of information dissemination. They don't get it, okay? Or they're trying to get it. They're playing catch up. Here it is.
In the Philly suburbs. And I'm telling you, we are way off. The entire political class is way off. First of all, digital is the new door knocking. Mm-hmm. You got to understand that. We were laughing our butts off at Donald Trump for suspending his door knocking campaign and letting Charlie Kirk and Elon do a bunch of stuff online. Mm-hmm. We said, these guys are idiots. These guys are stupid. Then you start knocking on these doors. You know what people come to the door with? Their phone in their hand. They're in a 24-hour digital surround sound that has nothing to do with CNN, has nothing to do with any stuff that we do. I got a teenage son. I asked him, who are the most influential people in the world today? I'm thinking to myself, he's going to say Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Jay-Z. He says, Kai Cent, Aiden Ross, Jinxie, and Sketch. I don't know who he.
Judging by the people that he mentioned, there is a very high likelihood that Van Jose's son has seen clips of me and does not like me.
He's talking about. I said, what platforms are you on? He goes, I'm on Twitch, Kick, and Rumble. I said, that sounds like you need to go to the hospital.
Van Jose's son is a Kick watcher. Van Jones's son is a Kick watcher and a Rumble watcher. That is crazy. Van Jones, you have failed as a parent. I'm just letting you know. If your teenage son is watching Kick and Rumble, your shit is cooked. Like, if he was just to say, like, oh, I watch clips on TikTok and I see, I see these content creators on clips on TikTok or on Twitter or one thing. That's one thing. But if he's like an active Rumble watcher, holy fuck, dude.
What are these platforms? I'm telling you guys, the mainstream has become fringe, and the fringe has become mainstream. There are platforms, there are people out there that are getting 14 million streams, and we're on cable news getting 1 or 2 million. And so there is a whole world out there. Kellyanne Conway, I hate to agree with her, but I do a lot of times. Donald Trump understood that and we didn't. And that's not just Democrats that don't. The entire political class is way off.
I mean, he's right. They don't understand it. They don't recognize the environment. They have no way of comprehending it. And to be fair to Van Jones here, to be fair to Mao's third world as Van Jones, but it's hard to comprehend if you're not in this environment. As someone who is in this environment, let me tell you, okay, it is vast. It is vast. It is expansive. And people have no way of comprehending how big it is. Like, people don't understand. Like, if I'm getting 60,000 live concurrent viewers, that's like 600,000 on the Nielsen ratings. Okay, I'm at the DNC with 60K live concurrent viewers. That's a fucking reputable TV network. Like, that is a straight up sizable TV network, especially for the demographics. 60K to 600K. Yes. The way that television Nielsen ratings work is unique viewership across the board in an hour. Okay. From Nielsen TV homes that they extrapolate this data from. Okay. Live concurrent viewership translated to Nielsen metrics would be anywhere from 5x to 10x. This is the reason why, for example, while I had 314,000 concurrents on my election night coverage, I had 7.5 million unique viewers. Okay, but yeah, this is a bunch of old people trying to comprehend how much they how they lost. And the other side of it is that not only is it sizable, but also it's a demographic that is far more important to tap into. A demographic that simply does not watch any television whatsoever. It is the 18 to 35 demographic. Okay? The 18 to 35-year-old demographic is the demographic that I have. And that is a demo that does not watch TV. They don't have cable. I don't have cable. I'm in that demo. I have never had cable. In August, the Bulwark told me it noticed a large portion of its growing YouTube audience was watching its podcasts and clips on TV. Today, YouTube reported that people are watching 400 million hours of podcasts monthly on TVs. Another way pods have displaced cable news and talk shows. And this is still playing catch up. Twitch and live streaming is at the forefront. And I would say that right now, even at this stage, live streaming is where podcasts were in like 2015. When I was an avid podcast listener in 2014, 2015, I would try to describe to people how important this space was for media, how it was a replacement of mainstream media. Okay. And people would look at me like I'm out of my mind. Because at that time, it's like impossible to imagine. It's impossible to imagine, but like the early 2010s, like podcasts were first forming. It was the Wild West, right? And for many of you might have actually, many of you, if you're old enough like me, probably started watching podcasts back then, okay? And at that point, most people in traditional media would look at that and go, who gives a shit about this? You know, who cares? Who cares about fucking podcasts? What are you talking about? Oh, it's just like radio, but more accessible. Oh, who cares? And now, podcast in and of itself are a force to be reckoned with. Now they understand the importance of podcasts, but they're still playing catch up because right now the next wave of content is both in short form and in live streaming. And there is a relationship between short form content and live streaming in general. And that's entirely too complicated for these guys to understand. They will not catch up to the live streaming environment, I guess, until it's like 2030s at this rate. If it took them basically 10 years to recognize the importance of podcasts, because they're now officially cognizant of the importance of podcasts, they're still going to, it's going to take them another at least 5 to 6 years for them to catch up to where live streaming is in this entire field. Viewers watch over 400 million hours of podcasts monthly on living room devices. The share of videos uploaded to YouTube in 4K is up by 35% year over year. Early tests of the streamlined subscribe button show more than a 40% increase in net subscribers to their TVs. Watch time of sports content on TV grow 30% year over year. The Ms. Rachel channel had one of the highest watch times on TV across YouTube channels in the last year. But also on top of that, this is the reason why Republicans can go into where their base is and talk to the people that are even apolitical. Democrats can't do that. If I'm one of the largest leftist content creators, one of the largest progressive content creators in North America, and I am diametrically opposed in my worldview to many of the figureheads in the Democratic Party, the way to change that is not by trying to get me to be a loyal servant of the Democratic Party. The way to change that is by the Democratic Party changing its attitude. That's it. The party needs to come to where the people are, not the other way around. It will not work and will never work. Even if you are a willing servant of the DNC, you're not going to magically make people love the DNC. Exactly. As an independent, what really swung me to Trump was Kamala not going on podcasts. Made me feel like if she was too good to have anyone to have a basic conversation, made me feel like she thinks is almighty. I mean, it's just, it sounds stupid. And it is kind of stupid to openly say that, but there are a lot of people who fucking operate like that. And if you want to win elections, you have to fucking go there. That's it. It's just, I don't know what else to say. I joke and say I'm the largest leftist content creator in North America, but the real person, that honor actually goes to AMLO. He is the one with his daily live streams. It's true. But anyway, yeah, AMLO's morning conference totaled 2,505 hours of streaming, equivalent to 3.4 months of continuous broadcasting. I like AMLO, but that's just state media by another name. Yes, it is. But guess what? A lot of private media is owned by liberal capitalists. So if you want to sidestep that because they're going to be unnecessarily contentious to everything that you do and constantly fucking shit on you, then use the environment where there is so much hatred towards mainstream media to your advantage by making your own version of this. Yeah, Mexican media is owned by 3 families. That's how it is in every country, by the way. They have invisible incentives, like our media environment has invisible incentives that unite them. That's why a lot of the messaging that you see on mainstream outlets, regardless of how diverse this environment seems, is pretty united on certain issues like foreign policy, pretty united on deregulation, pretty united on like talking about healthcare CEOs, for example, if we're going to use this past week. And sometimes you have to sidestep that. Sometimes you have to become your own communicator. Well, you say that and look who were on CNN last night. 3 former Fox News personalities on CNN Newsnight this evening. Yeah. FBI director resigned before Trump takes office. Julie Virginsky, Democrat strategist. Gretchen Carlson, journalist and co-founder of Lift Our Own Voices. And Geraldo Rivera, journalist. All 3 are former Fox News personalities now on CNN. It's time for this for the new chatters. Beep, beep. Here. Noam Chomsky, the 5 filters of mass media machine, listening posed by Al Jazeera. This is like the most condensed version of manufactured consent.
Propaganda. Many use the word when talking
Read by
about
Amy
countries
Goodman.
like North Korea,
I gotta pee.
Kazakhstan, Iran. Countries viewed as authoritarian through the lens of the Western media. Press freedom, freedom of thought. People use those terms when talking about countries like the United States, France, Australia, democracies. In 1988, Noam Chomsky co-authored a book with Edward Herman called Manufacturing Consent. It blasted apart the notion that media acts as a check on political power, that media inform the public, serve the public, so that we can better engage in the political process. In fact, media manufacture our consent. They tell us what those in power need them to tell us so we can fall in line. Democracy is staged with the help of media that work as propaganda machines. Media operate through 5 filters. The first has to do with ownership. Mass media firms are big corporations. Often they're part of even bigger conglomerates. Their endgame, profit. And so it's in their interests to push for whatever guarantees that profit. Critical journalism takes second place to the needs and interests of the corporation. The second filter exposes the real role of advertising. Media costs a lot more than consumers will ever pay. So who fills the gap? Advertisers. And what are the advertisers paying for? Audiences. And so it isn't so much that the media are selling you a product, their output. They're also selling advertisers a product, you. How does the establishment manage the media? That's the third filter. Journalism cannot be a check on power because the very system encourages complicity. Governments, corporations, big institutions know how to play the media game. They know how to influence the news narrative. They feed media scoops, official accounts.
Flag is what Hassan gets for being anti-Zionist? Yes.
Interviews with the experts. They make themselves crucial to the process of journalism. So those in power and those who report on them are in bed with each other. If you want to challenge power, you'll be pushed to the margins. Your name won't be down. You won't be getting in. You've lost your access. You've lost the story. When the media, journalists, whistleblowers, sources, stray away from the consensus, they get flat. That's the fourth filter. When the story is inconvenient for the powers that be, you'll see the flak machine in action, discrediting sources, trashing stories, and diverting.
Yeah, if you can't actually critically cover the inconvenient truth, if you can't actually address the thing, if you cannot address the message, then you address the messenger. You directly hit the messenger. You say, no, this guy is bad. This is a bad person. This is not a person that deserves your charity. Okay? The anti-Semitism allegations slapped onto every single person that is critical of Israel is a perfect demonstration of this.
The conversation. To manufacture consent, you need an enemy, a target. That common enemy is the fifth filter. Communism, terrorists, immigrants, a common enemy. A boogeyman to fear helps corral public opinion. 5 filters, one big media theory. Consent is being manufactured all around you, all the time.
This is a fantastic video, obviously, and it perfectly condenses the one of the aspects of Noam Chomsky's commentary on American media, or just Western media, capitalist media, and how it operates. Anyway, I figured it was good timing to explain everything. You were relying on the audience, knowing that they clearly didn't. Yeah, and now let's get back with the new perspective that some of you might have gathered to Donald Trump being named Time Magazine Person of the Year.
Building across the street. I wasn't going to buy it. Then I said, you know, it's right next to the New York Stock Exchange. I'm going to buy it. We've had great success. 40 Wall Street, we've had tremendous success with it. But you've really had success with the New York Stock Exchange. It's an incredible group of people. And Jeff, you have done an incredible job, you and your group. And what a beautiful speech you made. Thank you very much. That was some introduction of all of us. But we've gone up since the election. I was just told by Scott, everybody said, you have to pick Scott Bessent. He has to be the one chosen for Treasury. Where is Scott? Let's see. He's around here someplace. He's around here. He told me we picked up $3 trillion since the election day. And I said, well, that's good, but what about before the election day? He said, we picked up some money there because they thought you were going to win. I said, I like this guy. He's going to be my Treasury Secretary. But it's true. I think we're going to have a tremendous run. We have to straighten out some problems, some big problems in the world. When we left, we didn't have any of these problems. We didn't have Russia with Ukraine. We didn't have Israel October 7th. We didn't have the Afghanistan disaster. We didn't have inflation. We had no inflation. And we had a very strong economy. And we're going to do that again. But I think we're going to even up it because now we have experience that we didn't have. Now I know everybody. You know, when I first came in, we came down, Melania and I, a great first lady, who's very popular, by the way. She rang in. She rang in the bell. She rang in the bell. But we came down and we're driving down Pennsylvania Avenue, and it was so beautiful. I said, you know, I've never done this before. I didn't know anybody. I got to the Oval Office, and I'm picking all these big positions, and I didn't really know the people in Washington, but boy, did I get to learn fast. And now we do, and I think we have an incredible staff behind me and others that aren't here. And we're going to do a fantastic job. We're going to create the incentive theory again. In fact, I just announced yesterday, I didn't announce it for this reason, but anybody investing $1 billion or more gets a very expedited approval process because, you know, the approvals, when people come into the country, it takes them, in many cases, 14, 15, 16 years to get the approval. We have Lee is around here someplace. He's in charge of the environment.
I like that they're hitting the Democratic Party's position. Trump's like, if the Democrats don't do it, we'll do it ourselves. We're gonna expedite. We're gonna expedite the approval. We're gonna expedite the approval process, but also simultaneously, we're gonna go crazy. We're gonna go crazy mode on on the undocumented migrants that are here.
And that's Lee Zeldin, who ran an incredible race for governor in New York, was a very, very successful guy. Before that, he was a great congressman, and he's a fantastic lawyer. He's in charge of environmental, and we'll try and push him as much as possible to get those permits very quickly. Like a nuclear power plant, I would say a week.
It's crazy how much power and influence the Republican Party holds in this country because they just don't care about preserving the sanctity of institutions or whatever the fuck the Democrats act like they care about. Whatever he says goes, you know? He could just be like, yeah, we're gonna expand Medicare, and ultimately he'd be able to utilize the bully pulpit and whip the Republican Party into shape to get it across the finish line, in my opinion. It would be a difficult fight, and it would require some kind of genuine commitment from Donald Trump, which is why it won't happen.
Would be enough time. What do you think? Is that okay? We're going to get fast approvals, and it's great that we have Lee and all of the people behind. They're all stars in their own way. But it is an honor, and this is a double because usually they don't coordinate the Man of the Year or the Person of the Year with the ringing of the bell. And brilliantly, you picked them both at the same time, and you were all friends, and you said, let's do it. And it takes one trip. It doesn't take two trips. That's okay. We like to save. We like to be able to do it properly. But this is a special group. So many friends in the audience, too. John, great job you've done at ABC. I'm really proud of you, and you've been so nice to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't actually acknowledge you at all. But you.
Trump, here are some of the high notes from, or important notes from Trump's Time interview. On a scenario with a war with Iran, he said, anything can happen. Anything can happen. It's a very volatile situation. Okay, let's take a look. Yeah. There's a scenario where you would allow Israel to annex the West Bank. I will. What I'm doing and what I'm saying again, I'll say it again. I want a long-lasting peace. I'm not saying that's a very likely scenario, but I want a long-lasting peace, a peace where you don't have an October 7 in another 3 years. And there are numerous ways to do it. You can do it two-state, but there are numerous ways it can be done. And I'd like to see who can be happy, but I'd like to see everybody be happy. Everybody go about their lives and people stop from dying. That includes on many different fronts. I mean, we have some tremendous world problems that we didn't have when I was president. You know, when I left, we had an Iran that was not very threatening. They had no money. They weren't giving money to Hamas. They weren't giving money to Hezbollah. Iran recently plotted to have you assassinated, which, by the way, again, the media is incredible on this issue because foreign policy is uniparty, right? Foreign policy is uniparty, and mainstream media is completely complicit, okay, in this uniparty endeavor. So, of course, when Trump says something crazy like, oh, yeah, I might actually annex the West Bank, who knows? They don't follow up. There is no following up, okay? Immediately just move on to some more like escalatory sentiments about Iran. Iran is trying to get you killed. Will you go to war with them? Anything can happen. Anything can happen. It was a very volatile situation. I think the most dangerous thing right now is what's happening where Zelensky has decided, with the approval of, I assume, the president, to start shooting missiles into Russia. I think that's a major escalation. I think it's a foolish decision, but I would imagine people are waiting until I get in before anything happens. I think that would be very smart to do that. Do you trust Netanyahu? I don't trust anybody. Can I ask, did Elon Musk meet with the Iranians at your behest? I don't know that he met with them. Reportedly, he met with the Iranians. I don't know. He didn't tell me that. Another important aspect of this was the trans conversation. Okay, so let's keyword search trans in here. I think that some women in America want to know, are you committed to making sure the FDA does not strip their ability to access abortion pills? That would be my commitment. Yeah, that's always been my commitment. Can I shift to the transgender issue? Obviously, sort of a major issue during the campaign. In 2016, you said that transgender people could use whatever bathroom they choose. Do you still feel that way? When was that in 2016? I don't want to get into the bathroom issue because it's a very small number of people we're talking about, and it's ripped apart our country. So they'll have to settle whatever the law finally agrees on. He hit the Kamala Harris angle on this. The law decides. I'm a very big believer in the Supreme Court, and I'm going to go by their rulings. And so far, I think they're rulings that people are going along with. But we're talking about a very small number of people, and we're talking about it, and it gets massive coverage, and it's not a lot of people. But on that note, there's a big fight in Congress right now. The incoming trans member from Delaware, Sarah McBride, says we should all be focused on more important issues. Do you agree? I do agree with that. On that, absolutely. As I was saying, it's a small number of people. It was a big issue, though, on the campaign. I mean, one of the ads your campaign put the most money behind was that Trump is for us and Harris is for they, them. Well, it's true. Trump is for us. Right. It obviously strikes a chord. I mean, Trump is definitely for us, okay? And the U.S. is the vast, vast majority of people in this country. And us is the vast, vast majority of people in this country. And also, I want to have all people treated fairly. You know, forget about the majority or not majority. I want people to be treated well and fairly. On the trans issue, will you reverse Biden's protections for trans kids under Title IX? I'm going to look at it very closely. We're looking at it right now. We're going to look at it. Look, the country's torn apart. We're going to look at everything. So he basically said on the trans issue, he's like, I don't want to get into the bathroom issue. I don't care. It's a tiny percentage of people. Who cares? Who cares? That doesn't mean that like trans people are going to be protected. They certainly will not be. It's just, it is not as significant nor consequential, and Trump understands that. That's the difference. Because if he was a Matt Walsh type, if he just like wanted to literally, if he ideologically was committed to like killing trans people, he would have an answer to that. He would be like, they're dangerous groomer predators. Do you understand? The reason why it's not a priority for him is because he understands that it's the sweatiest fucking losers that care about this shit aggressively. Now, this doesn't mean that he will go out of his way to defend trans people. That certainly is not the case. He will still be at the whims of people who do care a lot about this shit, right? People who do care quite a bit about this. But it's yet another clear example that the permanent room reader, Donald Trump, has read the room and knows that this is like not a big priority for him. Yeah, his hyperfixation is on immigration right now. That's what he cares about. The last part of this interview that I want to cover is also the prices will come down part, okay? Because he talks about prices. Donald Trump in his interview with the Times says he's not sure he can get the price of groceries down. It's hard to bring these down once they go up. You know, it's very hard. Prices will come down, Trump told voters during a speech last week, laying out his vision to return to White House. You just watch, they'll come down. Everything will come down fast, not only with insurance, but everything. You've realigned both political parties. You've changed America. There's got to be something that you understand about winning votes for the American people that your opponents maybe don't give you credit for. It's, you know, I think people want to lead a good life. I think they want to be able to buy groceries at a reasonable price and not have to turn off their heat in order to buy 2 apples. I think that people want security. I don't think people want to have our borders rushed in, invasion, yada, yada, yada. They don't want to see somebody in a weightlifting contest, a woman against a man. Again, a fucking totally made up thing. It makes no sense. They don't want to see, you know, men playing in women's sports. They don't want to see all of this transgender, which is just taken over. And then when you look at not many years after this person who went through the process saying, who did this to me? As you know, it's a very high percentage. Media also playing a role here. You know, propping up these narratives, the detransitioner narratives in general. I really think that the people of this country have tremendous hearts. They understand that they want common sense applied in their lives. Most of the things I talk about are common sense. They don't want to see their food price go up by 57% in a short period of time. And I think that's why I won. The Republican Party has become the party of common sense. And it's so many of the things I mentioned and other things too. They don't want to all have electric cars. They might want an electric car. Electric cars are great, but they're not for everybody. They also want gasoline powered cars or hybrids or anything else that has to come out. They don't want to have a mandate on cars. Okay, where's the other price conversation? Hold on. If the prices of here, this is where he says, now the difference is you've had 3 times as much now. They have essentially they try to get the equal, but they didn't do that. You'd have energy, you'd have inflation that would have been much worse than it is. And it already was possibly the worst the country's ever had. We've had inflation. They've lost on inflation. They lost on immigration. They lost on, as a part of immigration, I think a big part of the border is the border itself. You know, if you can subdivide the word immigration, they lost on the economy. But it was a different kind of it. It was the economy as it pertains to groceries and small things that are actually big things for a family. If the price of groceries don't come down, will your presidency be a failure? I don't think so. Look, they got them up. I'd like to bring them down. It's hard to bring things down once they're up. You know, it's very hard. But I think they will. I think that energy is going to bring them down. I think a better supply chain is going to bring them down. He is hyper reliant on, I think, his relationships that he has with Saudi Arabia and maybe even Russia for OPEC plus, the cartel playing ball with him. If he does like a little pull and push on foreign policy, and then his reliance on big oil, which was so incredibly invested in Donald Trump's reelection, to basically lower the price of oil, that will then lower the price of all goods across the board. That's what he's thinking. There is no assurance or no guarantee that this will happen. And ironically enough, a lot of the things that he has advocated for, a lot of the things that he wants to do, like his signature policies, are inflationary in nature. Tariffs, inflationary in nature. Mass deportations, inflationary in nature. What do you think happens when there's no agricultural output? When you got like 60 to 70% of all agricultural output in this country being produced by undocumented migrants? What do you think happens to the prices of everything? You know, the supply chain is still broken. It's broken. You see it. You go out to the docks and you see all these containers. And I own property in California in Palos Verdes. They're very nice. And I'm past the docks. I've been doing it for 20 years. I've never seen anything like it. You know, for 17 years, I saw containers and, you know, they'd come off and they'd be taken away. Big areas, you know, in that area. You know, they have a big ships coming in. Big. The port. Big. Very big. I see this for years as I was out there inspecting property and things. And I look down and I see there are 13, 12, 14 containers. You wouldn't believe they can hold each other. It's like crazy. No, the supply chain is broken.
You have been, it's a terrific job you've done. But again, I want to thank you. We're going down to ring the bell now. And I could just say that the economy, I believe, is going to be very strong. We do have to solve some problems. We have wars going on that we didn't have. We have a lot of things happening that we didn't have that would have never happened. They would have never happened. But now they have happened. And I want to get them solved. We have to get them solved because ultimately the power of weaponry today is the biggest threat we have, in my opinion. It's not some of the other things that you read about. It's the power of weaponry. The weapons are so powerful, so devastating. And I rebuilt our military. I got to know every one of them, including nuclear weapons. I hated to do it. Actually, I hated to do it. But we did some nuclear weapons that are so devastating and almost makes you very sad as you get them and as they come online. It makes you very sad because you know what the purpose of them is, and you just hope to God that you never have to use them. Because if you do, the world will never be the same. So we have to be very, very smart. We have to be very sharp. We have to be very special to do a job. And I think we'll get it done. And I think we're going to get a lot of people in the room. We've seen it. We were in France where President Macron did a fantastic job with the cathedral, an absolutely fantastic job, of Notre Dame. And it was beautiful. The opening was the opening, and I just got back, and it was something really beautiful. And a lot of world leaders there. We had about 80 world leaders, different countries, and they were all coming together. They all wanted to meet us.
That's the correct way to say it, my man. Lenin.
And meet me as representative of the U.S., and there was a lot of goodwill. But we're going to get some really tremendous goodwill. I was even thinking about inviting certain people to the inauguration, and some people said, wow, that's a little risky, isn't it? And I said, maybe it is. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But we like to take little chances, but that's not a bad chance. Here's a gentleman that's going to do a great job at HUD. Good luck, my friend, right? He's going to be a he's been my friend for a long time. But nice to see you. I haven't shaken his hand yet. Come on. Congratulations. Thanks. Really, you're going to be great. And Ben Carson is your biggest fan in the world. You know that. Ben has been with us for a long time and has done a fantastic job. Thank you. Good. So, ladies and gentlemen, go on. We're going to put it straight. We're going to give tremendous incentive like no other country has. We're cutting your tax.
What do you have to say to the American
we got Jim Cramer in the building.
investor in this country?
Well, I think you're going to.
Yeah, I don't know why he brought up Ben Carson when he saw a black guy. Well, I do know why he brought it up. He's like, black guy, you all know each other. Ben Carson loves you.
See some very good days ahead. A lot of incentives are going to be given. You saw yesterday a $1 billion investment, and we gave you very fast approvals. Nobody's come up with that one yet, although it seems pretty simple. I think you're going to have some great days ahead. We have to conclude a couple of bad wars that are going on. A lot of bad things are going on, but we'll get them done.
Do you think that we are in a situation where business will be far more embraced under you than currently?
Well, I don't want to really knock current, but I will tell you more than at any time.
I know Ben Carson was the HUD secretary. I don't think Ben Carson remembers that or knows that.
Time anywhere in the history of our country.
Now, we used to speak together about the idea that the averages mattered and were a good barometer of your performance. Is that still the case when we go beyond Dow Jones, maybe to NASDAQ?
Well, I think I've always said, to me, stock market is all of it, all of it together. It's very important. It's an honor to be here at New York Stock Exchange. I sort of joked that I actually bought the building across the street because the stock exchange was here. It's a big deal.
40, it's a nice building.
40 Wall Street. So, look, we're gonna do things I think that haven't been really done before. We're gonna be cutting taxes still further. We got it down to 21%. We're gonna bring it down even.
Oh, great. We really need that. That's great. Fantastic. We're going to cut taxes even further, he says. Nice.
Even below that, you pay 21 if you don't build here, and meaning your product or whatever it is you're building. And if
I am in support of cutting taxes even though I'm a Democrat. Why? Do you make millions of dollars a year? Are you a corporation? I own stocks too. Oh my God. Bro, we're never getting anything good. I'm going to be honest with you. We're never getting anything good. Okay? Individual taxes also went down. Standard deduction was doubled. Brother, you are the reason why Republicans get to do whatever they want. Your taxes went down, let's say $1,000. Okay? Your taxes at the end of the year went down $1,000. Do you know how much the taxes of the actually wealthy people went down? Do you understand? Do you know that those tax cuts are slated to sunset this upcoming year? Unless you're in the top marginal tax rate, unless you're at the tippy top, your taxes are supposed to come back up. I understand that, but my life improved. I don't wish ill on other people. Oh my God. No, it didn't. Okay? You saved $1,000 and you thought, oh my God, how fantastic. It's great. Okay? The problem is, in that process, you got literally pennies on the dollar for how much the omega wealthy. It's not $1,000 though, way, way more. How much money do you make? If you don't mind me asking. Once you combine stocks and income, oh my God. 90% of the stock market is owned by the top 10% of wealth. Oh, okay. You currently make $450,000 a year. Yeah, no shit, dude. Yeah, of course. Of course you'd be like, of course. Yeah, you're rich as fuck. Of course you would be like, yeah, I want tax cuts. A classic rich guy brain. Never mind. I don't even know. Oh my God. Yeah. Of course your taxes went down, chatter. What the fuck are you talking about? You are not the average person. Your current net worth is $450,000. That means you're in the top. You're not the 1%, but you're close to it. If your yearly income or your net worth overall or your yearly income is $450,000, yes, of course, you're rich as fuck. My job is to try and convince you, as someone who makes a lot more than you do, that it is actually wiser to ensure that people like ourselves, okay, and people a lot wealthier than both of us combined, times 1,000,000, pay a lot more in taxes. Because if we pay more in taxes, especially those who have parked all of their assets in the stock market, if we give back more to the government, okay, ultimately, the goal is the government can spend more on social safety nets, on fixing the infrastructure, and ultimately, society will be better overall. I'm afraid that if they increase my taxes, I might never own. Oh my God. I don't understand what you're budgeting on. If you're making $450K a year and you can't purchase a fucking home when the home prices are $2 to $3 million, like, just get an apartment, dog, I think. I don't know. Look up costs in Silicon Valley. Bitch, I live in Los Angeles. You think I don't know how fucking inflated the housing market is? That's so funny. Hassan would know, he lives in LA. Exactly. Yeah, no, I trust me, I know. I live in a price inflated home. I bought it with a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And as someone who is incredibly fortunate, I hate this kind of nonsense. I hate this, we need to do more fucking tax cuts nonsense. He's missing the point here. All he's arguing is that housing should be better now that tax cuts are good. Yeah. The problem is, here's the contradiction, okay? You have a lot of assets in the stock market. You make $450,000 a year. You feel, understandably, like you're a part of this. And in some ways you are. You are in the top 10% of wealth. So you, of course, have a lot of motion in the stock market. So when the stock market is doing well, your net worth goes up. The problem is, in order for society, in order for Americans across the board to have a better outcome overall, we need to break this a little bit. The system that has been quite fortuitous for someone like yourself and even someone like myself. I'll give you one example. You're frustrated by the home prices, $2 to $3 million. The homes are $2 to $3 million over here. When in reality, part of the problem, at least in the Bay Area, is that there are a lot of homes that people are just sitting on. And also, I guess the Bay Area is one of the only places where, like, I would say zoning deregulation is a necessity. But the reality of the matter is people are just simply not building houses. There is no mechanism. There's a shit ton of Airbnbs. People are not building houses. There is no mechanism to bring the housing prices down so that someone like yourself and many others can purchase homes. Or someone like yourself or many others who work in the companies that you either have a vested interest in and stocks in can actually continue to hire people. It brings everything's, it is very consequential. It's very important. It brings the price of everything up. If home ownership is impossible and rent is unsustainable, then you have to increase the wages as well. But when you increase the wages, so much of that still goes back directly into the pockets of landlords. Our entire system is designed to constantly eke out profit. And because of that, nobody wants to turn around and actually do things that are deflationary in nature. Blow up any of these bubbles, if you will. This is the issue. And Trump is not going to do that. He's just going to keep cutting taxes further, which is going to contribute to this problem even further. That is the issue here. The contradiction is dumbasses are always fear-mongering about inflation, but when they bitch about taxation, which reduces the money supply, thereby reducing inflation as well, but only see inflation as being a problem when poor people get checks and not when rich-ass people get tax breaks. Exactly. Tax cuts are inflationary. It is the only fiscal policy that is allowed in the American Congress. And it's inflationary. And the only deflationary mechanism can come not from Congress, because God forbid you increase taxes and reduce the money supply that way. The only deflationary mechanism could come in the form of monetary policy. If you're thinking sector by sector, one of the immediate deflationary policies that you can engage with would be to readjust the housing market by making the government compete against the pre-existing inventory of houses by building fucking public housing. Build socialized housing immediately, instantly. God forbid, though, we do that, because that would mean that people who currently own homes, that use their homes as an asset, as their nest egg, as their retirement fund, as an asset to leverage against, those people would hate that because the house prices would go down, and therefore they'd be sitting on these fucking insanely inflated mortgages at that in that frame, where all of a sudden their collateral has gone away and they're paying these incredibly expensive mortgages for an asset that no longer has that same value. The system has to fundamentally change. We do not treat housing as an asset when it comes down to protecting people's home values. Even though if it was simply seen as an asset, then yeah, sometimes you're going to fucking make a gamble and you're going to lose on that gamble. That's the issue. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a world where you're like, well, I invested in this company and it went under. What the fuck? The government needs to protect this company now. It's ridiculous. Okay, you made a fucking unwise investment then. You know? What happened to risk? Everybody wants to have it both ways. Everybody wants to act like housing is shelter when it comes to demanding that the government protect this asset, but everybody also treats it doubly as an asset, as a risky investment. It makes no dang sense. If it's an investment, sometimes you're going to lose money on that investment. You know, you took the risk. If it's simply shelter, then you don't care. You're going to sit on it anyway. You have a fucking house. That's it.
If you do, we're going to try getting it down to 15%, but you have to build your product, make your product in the USA.
And how about every working person who's watching it would love to be able to see dividend tax maybe much lower, capital gains much lower.
Well, we're going to be...
Yeah, let's lower capital gains taxes even much lower. Fuck it, dude. No taxes. Why do we even have taxes to begin with? Fuck it. YOLO. Alamans, thank you for the 5 gifted. The Ether Paradox, thank you for the 5 gifted. Code Fred, thank you for the 20 gifted. Castle Commander, thank you for the 5 gifted.
We're talking about that, and we're really talking about lowering taxes. Last time, as you know, we took it probably from close to 44, 45% down to 21. Everyone said that was impossible. Now, it was always my, I really wanted to get it down to 15, and we'll be able to do that. And if you remember, we had the best 3 years in the history of our country from the standpoint of the economy. And you've been so professional and so good. I haven't seen you so much since I've been a politician.
Well, thank you,
Castle
sir.
Commander.
We were together, and I was grateful to be a judge
5
in The
gifted
Apprentice. We had a great time.
That's right. You were a judge.
Begging Strips, thank you for the 5. Hitbox, thank you for the 5. Jolly, thank you for the 5
Well, we had
gifted.
to eliminate some people who didn't cut the mustard. You made me a hatchet, man. I respect that.
Yeah, well, we're going to be doing the same thing, I can tell you. There's, unfortunately, there's too many of them. But I think we're going to really incentivize the country to go back and work, and they will be incentivized. They're going to do well. People are going to be very happy. JD is very much involved, and I have a great partner right over here with our First Lady. People love our First Lady, and we're going to do something very special. We have some great people up there. You saw some of the people on the cabinet. And we have some of the most successful people in the country, and we're dealing with the most successful people, and those are the people that put others to
Idle
work.
Room.
And we're going to be
Golden
hitting
Locks,
job
Lavender
numbers.
Locks.
And as you probably heard me say,
JX
we picked up since just the election.
Stop giving a shite. Thank you for the 5 gifted.
You call it worth or value, but $3 trillion was picked up since November 5th, so that's pretty good.
Dude, having combos like that, it just reminds me of how little things will change. Like, it truly, like, how the fuck, brother, you make $450,000 a year and you still want tax cuts? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And you complain that you can't buy a house, not realizing that the reasons why you can't buy a house is partially because of the hyper individualistic nature of Americans who think, well, what the fuck? House prices are going to go down? Are you kidding me? That's like my net worth. That my entire net worth is associated with it. I've taken mortgages out against this. It's my leverage. You're like, oh, no, the stock market might go down. If the stock market goes down, then my net worth goes down. Then I definitely can't buy a house. Okay. Not recognizing that when there is more readily available funds for people in your fucking price point that are, you know, purchasing these $2 to $3 million houses, if nothing is done about the supply and the demand is automatically increased because of the tax cuts, well, what do you think is going to happen to the fucking housing market then? You know? Yeah, you get tax cuts, you have more take-home pay, okay? Stock market is supercharged. Now you got more money. Now, you know who else has more money? All the other people that are one bracket above you. They have more money, even more money than you. Now they're going to buy their fucking third house. But hey, don't worry. You'll be able to rent it from that guy who's one income bracket above you, you know? Meanwhile, the conversation is so silly because there's hella people. There are the overwhelming majority of Americans, like 97% of Americans are nowhere near that level of wealth. And they're fucking starving and suffering. And some of those motherfuckers voted for this dipshit who's like, yep, we're going to do tax cuts. Oh.
President Reagan was here. He talked about putting the bear into hibernation, letting the bull
Chuck
run
dies. Thank you for the
free.
50
Sound
gifted
like a good
subs.
motto?
Sounds perfect. I can't do any better than that. That's what we're going to do.
All right. Now, I know we've got some other people here, but I don't see Elon Musk. I was hoping because he's been a good, let's say a good aid to you on a lot of different things, whether it be crypto or whether it be GLP-1 drugs. I mean, there's a lot of different ideas.
Well, he's got a lot of ideas. He's a great guy. He's a really good guy, too. And I guess his stock has done pretty well. Everybody's stock has done well since the election and even before. And Scott Bessent's done a fantastic job. And one of the things I liked about Scott is that he said long before I even know who he was that the market's only doing well. This is before the election. It's only doing well because they think Trump is going to win. So we made Scott the Treasury Secretary, which everybody frankly wanted. And he's going to do a fantastic job.
Meantime, how about a crypto? Really, we do need, I think, you're embracing crypto, very different from the previous administration. Strategic Petroleum Reserve like for crypto?
Yeah, I think so. We're going to.
The other part of that argument, going back to that one chatter, the other part of that argument is like, listen. If people lose their house value, okay, if the housing market, if the average home price goes down, and a lot of the home owners lose, okay, a shit ton of the value. But in the process, more people actually have an opportunity to purchase homes, or rent prices go down as well as a consequence of more readily available inventory. This is overall good for every American. Just like if this is overall good for America in general, when there's more safety and more security for our fellow Americans, they live happier lives. They're more productive laborers. We become more competitive in the global marketplace. This is the problem. It comes from it basically creates stability and it makes America a better country. But because we're so hyper focused on our own pockets that we just never even close our eyes and dream of a better future for all Americans and how that might be beneficial for us in the long run.
To do something great with crypto because we don't want China or anybody else, and not just China, but others are embracing it, and we want to be the head. We're going to be ahead of AI. We're going to be way ahead of AI, and we've got to produce tremendous amounts of electricity. You know that. It's unbelievable when you think that we need more than twice what we already have. If you think that's pretty for a specific industry, but we'll be able to do it. We have Lee Zeldin in charge of the environment. He's going to be giving us very strong approvals, I think, and he's going to make sure everything's clean and proper, but he's going to give us very fast approvals.
Natural gas makes it so that we should be able to afford it and be able to handle the 5% per year grid. Right. But obviously you think that we need to be able to be the king of AI, which means that we also have to, some people would say, protect Taiwan, because China would like very much to be able to have that technology.
Well, we're going to be having a lot of talks with China. We have a good relationship with China. I have a surprising relationship. Now, when the COVID came in, I sort of cut it off. That was a step too far. That was, as they say, a bridge too far. But we've been talking and discussing with President Xi some things and other world leaders. And I think we're going to do very well all around. And we've been abused as a country. We've been badly abused from an economic standpoint, I think, and even militarily. You know, we put up all the money, they put up nothing, and then they abuse us on the economy. And we just can't let that happen. We're not going to be abused anymore. We put America first, but we're also going to help other countries.
I know you've got a ton of things to do, but what can you say to the working person who owns stocks? Should they buy more stock?
Well, I don't want to get into a situation where they do and we have a dip or something, because that can always happen. You know that better than anybody in the world, probably.
Yeah, when you advocate for certain stocks and then they crash dramatically. I know you. I know your ways, Kramer. I'm long on inverse Kramer.
I think you're the leading authority in going up and going down, but you always end up. He always ends up. That's the good news. But we have like Doug Burgum standing
Puebla
right over here. Has done a fantastic job. He's been on your show many times, and we have just tremendous people. I would say this. I think long term, this is going to be a country like no other. We had the 3 best years ever until COVID came in, and then we did a good job getting rid of it. The stock market, if you look at the markets, were higher than just previous to COVID coming in when we handed it over. And now we know. I know the people. I know the players. When I came in, it was very interesting, Jim. I came in, And I was not a Washington guy. I didn't know too many people in Washington. I had to rely. Now, do I know people? I know people so much, they're coming out of my ears. So we have great people.
Mark Zuckerberg?
Well, Mark Zuckerberg's been over to see me, and I can tell you Elon is another, and Jeff Bezos is coming up next week. And I want to get ideas from them. Look, we want them to do well. We want everybody, and we want great jobs, fantastic salaries. We want people to love, and, when they wake up.
It's so wild that like none of this shit actually helps the working poor. None of this shit will actually help the working class, but it won't even fucking matter for the most part because the scraps that he's offering them is culture war narratives that he will fight and win, specifically because the culture war shit is already made up as a distraction to begin with. Meanwhile, the wealthy will keep robbing you fucking blind. Great stuff overall. And it's not like the Democrats will put a fucking stop to any of that anyway. It's great. Fantastic. The gap between the rich and the poor will grow in ever more concerning ways. We're already at the Gilded Age. Not a single person looks at this and goes, maybe it's not the best idea to have some fucking South African freak have this much power. The wealthiest person on the planet have this much power over the American government. Nope. That guy's got my best interest in mind, baby. He's got my back. I believe it. In 2018, Jeff Bezos became the first centibillionaire. Now Elon's net worth is $360 billion. It's crazy to think about this. Yeah. Don't worry. All of that will go away when the global market collapses. Okay? Because all those guys and their net worth is entirely tied to the stock market. So when that goes pee-pee poof, all right, let's get to Luigi Mangione. Again, there's updates as the police is building a case against Luigi Mangione. Looks like they're trying to set a precedent. Woman jailed after using shooting suspect's catchphrase as insurance company denied claim. Oh, wow. A Florida woman was charged after the police says she threatened an insurance company with the phrase delay, denied, depose. An arrest affidavit obtained by WFLA said the FBI contacted the Lakeland Police Department on Tuesday with information about an alleged threat. According to the affidavit, 42-year-old Brianna Boston used the phrase during a call with Blue Cross Blue Shield about a denied claim. Delay, denied, depose. You people are next, she allegedly said near the end of the call. The words are similar to the message left. Nice. Hey, no free speech. Oh, it's so cooked. And this is under the federal control, the last month of Democratic Party's federal control. We're so fucking cooked. We're so cooked. Any good lawyer will clear her with zero problem. Yeah, except good luck. She reportedly said she used the phrase because it's what's in the news right now. Boston argues she did not own firearms and was not a danger to anyone, the affidavit said. Police concluded that she intended to use the United Healthcare CEO's homicide to her advantage. It's getting worse. It's getting worse every day. Yeah. Also, the idea that you think this person has the capabilities of hiring a competent lawyer when she very clearly is cooked. After being charged with threats to conduct a mass shooting or an act of terrorism, a judge set Boston's bond at $100,000. I do find that the bond of $100,000 is appropriate considering the status of our country at this point, the judge said. Wow. You think a person who's 42 years old, who's on the phone with Blue Cross Blue Shield over a denied claim, has the capabilities of hiring a fucking fat, competent lawyer to get this shit, to get her off on this? We're so goddamn cooked. We're so fucking cooked. It's not precedent. I think it's just Florida. I mean, it is precedent. It's precedent for Florida. It will have national implications. You can't do it. You cannot. You can't have a fucking moment of weakness when the insurance company is directly fucking you. You can't turn around and be like, fuck you. Yeah, here's a cool tidbit from, if you want to understand the Polk County Sheriff's Department. We're going to shoot you a lot, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd says that the gunman who was killed by deputies in a standoff chose to get shot when he pointed his firearm at law enforcement. If you point a gun at us, we're going to shoot you. We're going to shoot you a lot. All right.
The healthcare CEO murder. Investigations say the ghost gun the suspect was allegedly carrying when he was arrested matches the shell casing found at the shooting scene. Senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky is here with more. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning to you, Michael. The evidence really does seem to be falling into place now against Luigi Mangione, and the problem for authorities at the moment may not be the case, but how the suspect is being perceived. This morning, police say the case against suspected killer Luigi Mangione is getting stronger.
We were able to match that gun to the 3 shell casings that we found in Midtown at the scene of the homicide.
Investigators also say they've matched Mangione's fingerprints to prints lifted from a water bottle and granola bar wrapper found near where United Healthcare Chief Brian Thompson was gunned down. The 26-year-old remains locked up in Pennsylvania, challenging his extradition to New York. Prosecutors are undeterred. You confident you have the right guy in the shooting of Brian Thompson?
Well, I'll start by saying, obviously, this is a profoundly disturbing, as we've alleged, murder.
I should have never saved District Attorney Alvin Bragg in Walking Dead. At the time, I thought he's going to put Trump behind bars, you know? Boy, was that a mistake. Holy moly. God damn, dude.
And yeah, I mean, we would not charge the person if we didn't think it was the person, and we're prepared to go forward.
Investigators have started interviewing relatives, hoping to understand how a high school valedictorian and Ivy League graduate from a prominent Maryland family became an accused killer. His grandfather was a self-made millionaire real estate developer. The family owns a resort, country clubs, radio stations, and donates to healthcare companies in Baltimore. The Mangione Aquatic Center at Loyola University is named for the family.
They had a lot of clout and have a lot of clout to this day.
Thompson's murder prompting backlash against the healthcare and insurance industries. The NYPD is alarmed the alleged killer is seen by some as a martyr, inspiring these wanted posters outside the New York Stock Exchange with the names of other corporate executives. A new law enforcement bulletin obtained by ABC News
Yeah, they're going to arrest people that even post those posters, by the way, for sure. Like, I suspect that because there's so much of it out there, I don't know if they can go after every single person online, but they'll try to pick some people and make an example out of them. They'll also go after the people that are like posting these posters and shit. Like they will definitely come after a couple people to make sure that you get the message that no, you can't be saying shit like that. Now, what's really interesting about this is free speech is supposed to be protected. This is like the exact opposite, right? Because even putting out like terroristic threats against trans people or whatever, that doesn't put you directly in the ire of federal law enforcement or law enforcement at all. As long as you are directing your anger at those who have less than you, you're good. If you're Tom Cotton, you can openly call for Black Lives Matter protesters to be gunned down. If you're Tom Cotton, you can call directly for climate change protesters to be ran over or to be tossed off the side of a bridge if they are pro-Palestinian protesters or blocking traffic. No censuring there, no nothing, no repercussions whatsoever. God forbid you put a poster up of publicly available information. You can be libs of TikTok and encourage actual bomb threats over and over again, doxing, and putting random working class people in harm's way because libs of TikTok has decided that a teacher is bad for being queer. That's not unacceptable at all. As a matter of fact, that's very acceptable and good. You should do more of that. But God forbid you post a photo of something that's publicly available, a photo of a CEO. Ooh, you can't do that. You can't do that. Please. For the love of God, don't turn the crosshairs up at people at the tippy top of society. Don't. What the fuck? What are you doing? Keep fighting amongst yourselves. Keep fighting against those who have less than you. What are we doing here? You can't be doing that.
Includes this image of a banner invoking the words found on the shooter's bullets. The bulletin warning many social media users have outright advocated for the continued killings of CEOs, with some aiming to spread fear, by posting hit lists. What do you make of people celebrating the murder of Brian Thompson, or someone who sees in the suspect someone to take inspiration from?
Celebrating this conduct is abhorrent to me. It's deeply disturbing. And what I would say to members of the public, we will be vigilant and we will hold people accountable. We will do that.
United Health emailed employees overnight telling them what you do matters. But there's real fear the murder of Brian Thompson has revealed a deep sense of frustration and anger aimed at the entire health insurance industry.
Yeah, and that fear is really real, really real. But what is the reward on the status, of the status of the reward?
There was some, what, $50,000, $60,000 offered. It's still being worked out, and apparently there was some question as to whether, because 911 was called and not Crime Stoppers in New York, whether it should actually be.
Oh, come on.
But
Really?
look, if it weren't for the heads-up customer and employee
So
at
it's more of a
McDonald's,
split thing, right?
It should be a split thing with the feds getting involved, but they seem to deserve it. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a break in the case.
And let's hope the guy who called 911 gets that reward in the end. Okay, Aaron, thank you.
Now to major developments in the investigation of the murder of the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The suspect's mother filed a missing persons report days before the shooting. And police now say there is hard evidence connecting Luigi Mangione to the murder. Lilia Luciano is in Huntington, Pennsylvania, where Mangione is being held. Lilia, good morning.
Good morning to you, Adriana. You might remember those bullet casings that were found at the scene of the crime that read deny, delay, and possibly depose. Well, those have now, according to ballistic analysis, been matched to the ghost gun that was found with the suspect, Luigi Mangione. This is the first time that forensic evidence, according to NYPD, places him at the scene of the murder. Shell casings found at the scene where United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was killed matched the 3D printed ghost gun 26-year-old Luigi Mangione had in his possession when he was arrested.
He's framed. It's fake. CEO didn't even die, actually. He's alive still. It's a psyop. I'm going to be a conspiracy guy in the Trump administration, but like a weird conspiracy guy. Weirder than the normal conspiracy guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, Brian Thompson has actually escaped to Cuba. He is alive. I have it on good authority that they cooked this up as a psyop to silence dissent, to figure out who is actually saying, oh, this is good. Yeah, inside job. That's right. They did this to create panic against Italians. That's why Luigi Mangione was the fall guy. It's an anti-Italian hit job. That's precisely what's going on. Stay woke.
Arrested, according to the NYPD Wednesday. Police also said the suspect's fingerprints match the ones found on a water bottle and a wrapper found outside a Starbucks, where surveillance video appears to show he was before the killing. The NYPD said his print also matches one found on a cell phone that was recovered in an alley near the hotel. And at the time of his arrest, the NYPD says the suspect had a notebook where he wrote about his disdain for the healthcare industry. Law enforcement sources tell CBS News he wrote about using a bomb, but wrote that a shooting would be more targeted and would not risk innocent lives.
Are you seeing the statements about choosing a gun over a bomb that were allegedly made in this notebook as an admission?
I don't know that they have a confession, but I think they have enough facts, enough of a pattern of facts at this point to say, this shows he was going to do it. This shows how he was going to do it. These pictures show you that he did do it.
Sources tell CBS News Mangione's mother filed a missing persons report in San Francisco just days before the shooting. Friends say they hadn't heard from the suspect for several months.
I remember looking at his face like, that guy looks so familiar.
Dorian Wright says he taught the suspect several times at Power Yoga, Hawaii.
He mentioned to me when I was helping him with the pose, he said, I have a back injury. And I'm like, where's your back injury? And he said, lower back. The goal was he came to our studio to heal himself, and I don't have any bad memories of him.
And Mangione's attorney says that he plans to plead not guilty to all charges. And yesterday, United Health CEO sent a letter to his staff honoring Brian Thompson and stating in part that the company vows to make healthcare better for everyone. Tony?
Sure. Also, manufacturing consent machine going brrrr. We're going to look at these incredible articles real quick. The way that mainstream media is now also trying to, reel back on how excited the broad majority of Americans were on this, or at least how little they cared about a healthcare CEO dying because of their immediate family members. Many of the employees I've talked to share the public anger, which New York Times might realize if they bothered to talk to anyone outside of management. Yeah. Health insurance workers fearful amid public anger after slaying of CEO. If you're actually a health insurance worker at a lower level, if you're a fucking pencil pusher, if you're a paper filer, you probably get fucked over by your healthcare company too. You probably have family members that have been fucked over by your healthcare company. So you probably understand. I wouldn't assume that you have a real interest in like defending your fucking upper management, let alone your bosses. But of course, New York Times has to make it seem like this is a universal problem for all working class, the sympathetic figures. They understand that there is not a lot of sympathy for the CEOs, so they have to universalize it to say like, no, you don't understand. He's like these doctors that are fearful now, these nurses that are fearful. The random paper pushers, the random paper filers, the pencil pushers, those are the fearful guys. They're going to get killed. The difference, however, is that if someone who's in customer service was outed, doxxed, persecuted, and murdered by a vicious person who has also been hurt by the insurance industry, you wouldn't have this kind of press coverage. Well, you might now, just so they can say, oh, look, see, they're going after everybody. But in the past, there would be no such interest in that sort of thing. There would be no bridges being shut down. There would be no manhunt for multiple weeks because you're just a fucking worker. You're worthless. The media would not go out to bat to defend you. And even if they were to do it now, the only reason why they would do it is to defend the likes of other Brian Thompsons. And for the record, it would be completely unacceptable if someone were to do such a thing. Just so you understand, I'm not joking at all.
So it's an interesting interaction.
This is a really funny thing that happened, by the way.
Had with the inmates from over the chain link. Tell me about it, Alex.
Yeah, pretty unbelievable moment. And Ashley, I can tell you at this very moment, I can look over my left shoulder up at the top of this prison wall, see through a window, and see that your face is right there. They're watching Banfield at this exact moment as they promised they would. All right, so let's backtrack a little bit, okay? So earlier today, I was reporting outside this prison wall. So, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if you just heard that, Ashley. That was them screaming.
I just waved. Alex, I just waved, and that was the...
Can you hear that?
Hi, guys. Say hello to Alex Capriello.
They said, we got you, Alex. Ashley says hello.
I can't believe this.
There they are. I can't tell if you can hear this.
Oh, we can hear it.
There you go.
Hi, guys.
Look up at that window.
Let me yell them a question. Alex, hold on. Let me yell a question. Guys, if you can hear me clearly,
okay.
Do you guys have any sights on Luigi Mangione? Just yell yes or no. I don't know if they're answering.
They're flickering the... They're saying no. Go ahead, ask another one. They can hear you.
Okay. You'll have to translate, Alex.
All right, so earlier today I was reporting outside these prison walls when all of a sudden I heard my name, and I couldn't tell if they were, catcalling me or heckling me or even saying my name whatsoever. And so I started reporting on Luigi Mangione's prison conditions as I was finding them out. And as soon as the live shot was over, that's when I turned around and they said, the conditions suck. And so that was my confirmation. Oh my gosh, they're watching News Nation at that very moment. I pulled out my camera, I recorded, and here's more of that interaction. Take a look from earlier today.
Luigi's conditions suck. Free Luigi.
Ashley, they're going nuts in there right now watching this video on playback. This was just from a few hours ago, and here they are, 10 o'clock as promised. They said earlier today, tell Ashley Banfield that Luigi is watching at 10 o'clock. I mean, obviously, you know, that's just a hard roast at this point because they're not near Luigi in any way, as confirmed by the Department of Corrections earlier today. But at the same time, they've picked a trusted news source to watch this very high-profile national case. Of course, they're watching us.
It's crazy. Hey, Alex, can I ask you a favor? Can I just ask the guys if they can hear me right now to answer yes or no very loud? Does Luigi have television in his single cell?
No.
Unreal. They said no, right? Obviously, we have a little bit of a delay, but they're getting they're getting the questions and they're giving us the answers. So Luigi does not have what.
This is so fucking dystopian, dude. I mean, I'm sure the imprisoned in this situation, I mean, they feel probably somewhat happy that their humanity is being recognized because they are able to communicate. But it is crazy. Like when you just like pull yourself out of the situation for a moment, it is so fucking dystopian, dude. Having said that, however, I am reminded of what Jesse Waters was fantasizing about the other day, saying, "Oh, you know, if Luigi doesn't get the death penalty, I'm sure they'll handle him in prison." How out of touch are you with the average person, like the average human being, that you can't even comprehend that, like, this dude is not going to be treated as a bad guy in prison. He's not going to get the Chomo treatment. He's not going to get the fucking child predator treatment in prison. Like, why the fuck would they kill them? I suspect that the broad majority of people in prison come from very dire financial circumstances, which means that they most likely have immediate family members who've been fucked over by the same healthcare providers.
Wow, this is quite something. This is the strangest interview I've ever conducted.
Me too, Ashley. You know, according to the Department of Corrections, he's got his own solitary cell. It's not solitary confinement, but he's by himself. It's not dorm style. I'm not sure exactly what those guys got going on in terms of a living situation. It sounds like they're all clustered together. But as far as Luigi's accommodations, he's by himself. He's got a bed. He's got a chair. He's got a toilet, a sink.
Oh, nice.
Again, he's not with the rest of these guys, but he's not in solitary confinement.
Okay, so I'm going to read out the menu, and then I'm going to ask the guys if it was any good, the dinner tonight. So the breakfast was fruit, grits, bread, eggs, and coffee. He had the choice. The lunch was porcupine meatballs, potatoes, bread, and fruit. And tonight's dinner, mac and cheese, pasta bean casserole, and stewed tomatoes with broccoli. So guys, was dinner good, yes or no? What
terrible,
are they saying?
They're saying.
I heard terrible. I heard terrible.
They're saying heck no. They're saying BS. They're saying terrible. They're saying that's not what they are eating.
Oh man.
Thanks for watching.
Officials with the NYPD tell CNN that CEO wanted posters have been seen around the city as fears grow that.
I love that they censor the face of the CEO as like this publicly available information. Yeah, dude, people will have no idea who the CEOs of companies are now. Why do that if you don't think that it's like a broad majority resentment? Why do that anyway? If your opinion is of the mind that these guys are heroes, they're profit makers, and that's a good thing. They're jobs providers. Who do you think is going to see that and do anything mean?
Copycats could target other corporate executives.
Well, Jim, there is a real sense of nervousness and even fear in C-suites really across the country. This fatal shooting in Midtown Manhattan, not far from where I am right now, has been a real wake-up call for business leaders and for boards of directors. The security firms that are paid top dollars to protect executives, they say that their phones have been ringing off the hook ever since this news broke. One veteran security executive told me that corporate America is nervous, and he said healthcare is the target now, but who's next? And so, yes, companies are considering a range of steps to try to ramp up security, including reassessing the security protocols that are already in place and the budgets. They're increasing the number of security personnel and the amount of technology in offices and even in the residences of executives. They're urging executives to delete their digital footprints, including stuff like the floor plans of their homes and any information that's out there about where their kids may go to school. And they're also enhancing mail screening. There's also a sense that this killing really made it clear that companies need to extend the security blanket that exists for those top level CEOs down to their lieutenants, because there are a lot of massive corporations out there like United Healthcare that maybe the security for those division CEOs does not rise to the level that it does for the number one CEO, but perhaps it really should. There's also this growing concern about the risk of a copycat, both because of the positive reaction that this has gotten online and also the level of attention that this suspect has received. A New York Police Department intel report obtained by CNN's John Miller said that the online reaction to the killing may signal an elevated threat facing executives in the near term, with the shooting itself.
Yeah, maybe if people were serious about this, they examined where this anger and resentment was coming from. I mean, this spells societal collapse. And it seems like everyone is more predisposed with defending the current order of business while simultaneously yelling at the angry people instead of looking at why they're angry, how this moment of desperation came about.
Having the capability to inspire a variety of extremists and grievance-driven malicious actors to violence.
New York City's top prosecutor says there could be more charges against the suspected killer of the United Healthcare CEO. And he's also denouncing the growing support that we've seen from some circles for Luigi Mangione.
Celebrating this conduct is abhorrent to me. It's deeply disturbing. And what I would say to members of the public, people who, as you described, are celebrating this and maybe contemplating other action, that we will be vigilant and we will hold people accountable. We are at the ready.
The Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg there making that promise after wanted posters targeting other healthcare executives were seen posted around New York City today. Joining me here tonight, Nicholas Florco, staff writer for The Atlantic, who argues in a new post, quote, "Murder is an awful answer for healthcare anger." And he joins me now, and it's great to have you because you also used to work for—
Wow, brilliant take, man. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, no, I don't think, I like that these guys just keep saying like murder is bad over and over again. Yeah, everybody knows, man. That's kind of part of the reason why they're fucking angry. You get this like top-down approach to the subject and you look at it like, well, this is a individual act of violence. Like, why are you celebrating it? Yeah, to the person whose fucking, loved ones had their insurance claims denied, so they were just like, all right, fuck it, like I'm just gonna die. Well, that's murder. Just because it is structured in a way to shelter those who are committing this act of murder, making it seem like it's just a regular part of the process, doesn't change the loss of life for the individual. It doesn't change that at all.
For STAT, which is a healthcare publication, covers United Healthcare previously. So I understand you probably are deeply familiar with the anger that so many people feel towards the healthcare industry. But the idea that you people are using that to celebrate the murder of a father of two children is just kind of stunning.
It really is. I mean, I'm used to people being angry about healthcare
my entire career. People have been angry about health insurance, about healthcare prices. I've never seen anything like this. I mean, the amount of outpouring of support for Luigi Mangione and the amount of hate going to the United CEO is just, it's unprecedented.
Yeah, but we've seen some people say, well, the reaction that we've seen to beef up security for these CEOs or to focus on that is them focusing on the wrong issue. But in looking at that, I mean, we're also seeing people put up wanted posters with their faces. I just want to show some people who maybe aren't, as prolific on social media as others, the reaction that we've seen towards the suspect here online.
This Ivy League hottie named Luigi is the Robin Hood that we never knew that we needed.
Yo, you know what's really funny about this? I think the average person, aside from healthcare should be free, is also literally not even fucking focused on the morality of the conversation at all. They just don't give a shit. And they're way more predisposed with how this guy is probably framed as a patsy. The average apolitical guy is like Bradley Martin, who I was talking to last night on stream. And he was like, yeah, dude, his eyebrows don't match. That's what the average person is predisposed with. The media is freaking out, being like, oh, which CEOs are next? This is unacceptable. Don't you dare disrupt the current order of business. This is not the answer. Violence is never the answer, except for the socialized murder and violence of random people at the behest of the profit motive in our for-profit structure that we've designed that is cruel and unusual. But the average person is literally I think Luigi Mangione is a fall guy. The average person's like, bro, 286, bro. You see that conspiracy? It's the 286 Pokemon and the Bible verse or whatever the fuck people are focused on in terms of the conspiracies.
I listened to Luigi's manifesto this morning 3 times and I cried. Honestly, it's beautiful and I agree with him.
At least he left a very powerful message and he highlighted how terrible the healthcare system is in America. I think he'll go down as a hero in history.
What does that say to you?
I mean, it tells me that people are really angry about the state of healthcare in this country and that they're feeling kind of hopeless. I mean, to me, what it symbolizes that people are moving towards this, glorifying violence because they feel like something can't get done otherwise. I mean, I would argue, frankly, that is the absolute wrong way to go in every way possible. We know that nonviolent protest is more effective than violent protest. And I think we all should agree that killing a CEO isn't going to change anything to make our healthcare system better.
Yeah.
Wait, that's crazy. Did we get fucking free healthcare? Because I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's been a lot of protests on that stuff. There's even been violent protests, really, riots, Black Lives Matter protests turned into riots. That was all the headlines. Shit just doesn't change at all until people in positions of power recognize that this is unstable,
And Senator Elizabeth Warren was facing some blowback today because when she was asked about this, she told the Huffington Post, the visceral response from people across this country who feel cheated, ripped off, and threatened by the vile practices of their insurance companies should be a warning to everyone in the healthcare system. Violence is never the answer, she said, but people can only be pushed so far. I saw some people saying, that should end it. Violence is never the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Senator Warren has struggled with what a lot of us that have been talking about this have been struggling with, which is balancing both the fact that our healthcare system causes real harm and real suffering, and that murder is absolutely incorrect. The thing that I think is important to highlight is, unfortunately, Senator Warren is right in a lot of ways. We know from history that society...
Bro, for the person whose immediate family member was harmed by for-profit healthcare, they look at it as a serial killer, okay? That's it. And as conditions worsen, especially when there's already a steady desensitization that the average American experiences in terms of the most horrific acts of violence, whether it be in fucking Gaza or whether it be the endless, senseless slaughter of children in American kindergartens and shit. Yeah, they're not going to give a fuck, dude. You can't just prime people into being no. Mass school shootings and mass shootings are just a part of American existence year over year because you want no solutions to gun violence and then expect them to be oh, the horror when a guy who is seen as a placeholder for their grandma fucking dying gets popped. That's it. It's that simple. You can't have both. Like what the expectation that people are supposed to be respectful about this is so funny to me. It's like, dude, yeah, of course they're mad, dude. What the fuck? The idea that like Elizabeth Warren, oh, it's really unacceptable that she said this. It's ridiculous.
Societies devolve into political violence when people feel like they are the victim. They see very clear inequality and they lose faith in our democratic institutions. So I think the point that Senator Warren is making is right, that these factors can lead to violence. But I just think it wasn't said in the right way.
Did you hear from people that you used to speak with in the healthcare industry after you wrote this, or just given, your past where you worked, what people inside that industry have said about this?
I mean, I think people are just scared. I mean, we're seeing the insurance companies taking their CEOs' photos off of the internet. We're seeing companies working from home. I mean, we've never seen anything like this. I mean, when you have people putting up wanted posters in New York City with people's faces on them, you have to wonder if they're right. They have to be careful.
Yeah, I mean, to see the wanted posters is quite something. To if you are one of those healthcare CEOs, to see that and targeting in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you see it as anything but intimidation. And I mean, frankly, I think and I hope that people will see those and think this is awful. But it only takes one person to cause chaotic trouble.
Yeah, it's an important piece. I'm glad you wrote it, and thank you for coming on here to talk about it tonight. Nicholas Florco, it's great to have you.
Thank you so much.
I just don't think that they're going to be able
Breaking
to.
news.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I think a lot of Americans are very stupid, and they do get their notes, especially older people get their notes from television. And if television consistently keeps saying over and over again, like, this is really fucked up, don't do it, don't say anything, how dare you? If they keep doing that over and over again, maybe some of your parents and your grandparents and shit will have a different opinion overall. But I just don't think they can finger wag their way out of this. You know what I mean? I don't think you could just be like, wow, it's really fucked up that you're upset about healthcare. Can you please stop? Come on, just peacefully protest, please, instead. That was much easier to ignore. What if the CEO didn't have a wife and kids? What would be the humanizing angle then, law? I mean, I don't think the fact that the CEO has a wife and kids has been enough for people to be like, oh yeah, let me reconsider. Like, they just don't give a fuck. People just don't care. And I understand why they don't care. Because poor people die every fucking day. And we've been trained into thinking that there is no value. There's no worthiness to human life. So yeah, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard for people to turn around and be like, okay, well, mass shootings are happening daily. School shootings are happening daily, weekly, whatever, right? And there's no solutions to that. But when some CEO dies, like, I'm supposed to fucking feel bad? Like, what do you mean?
Alleged CEO killer Luigi Mangione denied bail, as many people are sympathizing with him online tonight. The book Delay, Deny, Defend, which is about the health insurance industry's tactics, jumping to number 2 on Amazon's nonfiction bestsellers list. Number 2. Safe to say that book would never have been anywhere near number 2 if it were not for Luigi Mangione. Those 3 words, delay, deny, defend, were almost identical to the ones found on shell casings near the crime scene. And on Yelp, the McDonald's, where he was apprehended, has been hit with a flood of 1-star reviews, calling the employees, quote, snitches and rats. Jason Carroll is out front.
This Ivy League hottie named Luigi is the Robin Hood that we never knew that we needed.
I listened to Luigi's manifesto this morning 3 times and I cried. Honestly, it's beautiful and I agree with him.
At least he left a very powerful message, and he highlighted how terrible the healthcare system is in America. I think he'll go down as a hero in history.
He had been a named suspect for less than 48 hours, and yet, within a fraction of that time, many in the world of social media had already made up their minds about Luigi Mangione.
I'm just eating it up because this is like regular everyday person becoming our hero, our vigilante.
Also, like, you think these people are card-carrying communists? The people making these fucking TikToks and shit? Like, you think these are people who are like the proletariat must rise up and seize the means of production type people? No, not even a little bit. No, they're just regular ass people who are like, yeah, I totally get why he was fucking pissed off. Have you ever had your fucking insurance claims denied?
Lancy.
These types of comments angering law enforcement and public officials.
I don't care your views about healthcare companies because I don't think they're great right now either. But you do not celebrate the assassination of another human being who was just doing his job.
But interest in Mangione just continues to grow. On X, before his arrest announcement, he had just 64 followers. Now, more than 320,000 and counting. His initial 827 followers on Instagram grew exponentially Monday as we watched. By 3 o'clock, more than 32,000. An hour later, 53,000. By 5 o'clock Monday, more than 71,000 followers before that account was suspended. Many of the comments calling for his freedom and calling him a hero.
Hear me on this. He is no hero. The real hero in this story.
Yeah, that's not gonna fly, man. I'm gonna be honest. Like, that's just not. The real hero is the person who snitched, is not the message that you want to carry across. I think Elizabeth Warren has done a much better job talking about this. Oh, AOC.
You know, taken from a diagnosis. And I think that this collective American experience, which is so twisted to have in the wealthiest nation in the world, all of that pain that people have experienced is being concentrated on this event. And it's really important that we take a step back. This is not to comment, and this is not to say that an act of violence is justified. But I think for anyone who is confused or shocked or appalled, they need to understand that people interpret and feel and experience denied claims as an act of violence against them. People go homeless over the financial devastation of.
Yep. Great way to talk about it. Here's what Elizabeth Warren had to say as well. We're gonna talk about this after I'm done.
Of a diagnosis that doesn't get addressed, or, you know, the amount that they're going to have to cover with a surprise bill and things like that. And when we kind of talk about how systems are violent in this country, in this passive way, our privatized healthcare system is like that for a huge amount of Americans. I mean, I did not have health insurance until I got elected to Congress. I was running. When I first ran for Congress, I had to sit in a free clinic while waiting.
This is a good coverage of it in the mainstream media.
Let's be honest, since we're having an honest conversation. The reality in this country is, if you kill people with a gun, it is very obvious to everybody what's going on, and you're rightly deplored. And we should deplore that. If it is a more systemic kind of killing, as your social media person was saying, if people are being killed through PDF files and through claim denial letters and through a deliberate practice of saying no to a certain form of care that you know you're going to end up granting, but if you say no, 80% of people will lose steam and not appeal successfully, and you'll only have to give it to 20% of those people, and you factor that into your balance sheet. And if that is not an incidental thing that happens or bad apples, that's actually how you make money, because the health insurance industry is an industry that doesn't really exist in many other countries because they just take care of each other as part of the society. You cannot expect to live in a society in which that rage goes nowhere, just fizzles out and dissipates. And we have to deplore violence and then be curious about where it's coming from.
Suspected United killing was Ivy Leaguer with anti-capitalist leanings. Yeah, they're trying desperately to turn this into like a hypocritical socialist. They're desperate to make it seem like that, but I think it doesn't work. Here's what Elizabeth Warren had to say as well, by the way.
What happens when you turn this into the billionaires run it all is they get the opportunity to squeeze every last penny.
Yeah.
And look, we'll say it over and over. Violence is never the answer. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of United Health. But you can only push people so far. And then they start to take matters into their own hands.
Yeah.
What happens when you turn this into
Any Democratic nominee that doesn't go out to bat for a universal healthcare or soft expansion is going to be so funny in 2024. I think this party is finished. They're going to push progressives to advocate for small expansions as platform. Yeah, I think they're literally not going to do it. The Democrats are physically incapable of doing right by their constituents, or even like taking advantage of the understandable anger that people have in their hearts towards this system. And that's it. That's where we're at. I get it. Like, I know the anger that Luigi Mangione felt, and I know why people don't give a fuck. I get it. So no amount of finger wagging in this direction is going to cause people to change their opinions on this when their fucking family members are being killed, you know? It's the same. This is partially what happened with the Democrats losing the goddamn election, right? Everyone was like, bro, wages are not competing with the price of goods. Price of goods have outpaced wage expansion. And the Democrats were like, nah, shit's fine, dude. Shit's fine. Chill. What are you talking about? Well, it's fine. Calm down. And what happened? They fucking lost. People are so mad that they're like, yeah, I don't give a fuck that some CEO got killed. Shut the fuck up. Fix this goddamn healthcare. And the Democrats are like, well, best we can do is maybe if you are under the coverage of certain kinds of Medicare or certain kinds of healthcare, we will actually reduce the price of one piece of pharmaceutical product marginally. And that's the best we can do. And it's like, yeah, people don't see that. People don't care. They don't see that that's a good thing. Like, they don't see it as marginal improvements are not going to fix it. It's the Malcolm X quote about a knife in your back. Yeah. It's cool that we just had a presidential election where healthcare basically never came up.
You feel, however, that we're making progress in this country and worldwide?
No. I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. You pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that's a blow made. And they haven't even begun to pull a knife out, much less try and heal the wound.
People don't even acknowledge that a knife exists.
They won't even admit the knife is there.
Yeah. That is the wonderful attitude that the Democrats have. That's it. Ben Shapiro came after our big, beautiful boy, Bill Burr, by the way. So I want to show you Ben Shapiro has not given up on this issue. I don't know why he's this hard-headed and he hasn't like dropped this. Folks, the reason and moved on to some other shit that is more favorable for him. He is just like, nope. He's just like, no, we're going to talk about this.
Alrighty, folks, well,
no matter what, we're just going to keep pumping this fucking situation. And this time he's coming after Bill Burr.
Yesterday, Luigi Mangione, who is the alleged of the United Healthcare CEO, he had been arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and he was brought into the courthouse in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, where he immediately began shouting at the...
Chat, tell me how many dislikes this has. Ben saying Bill is disconnected from reality is insanely ironic. My insurance denied our claim when my third child was born. It wasn't a mistake. We fought with them for 2 months over it, and they finally agreed to pay. The right and left agree on this issue. The healthcare system is broken. We, the regular people, are the ones suffering, not millionaires. I feel like I'm being gaslit. He's suggesting that the CEO of the biggest healthcare insurance company in the U.S. has zero effect on anything around him. Oh, now they're at 50-50? Finally, it's gotten down to 50-50 for Ben.
The press. It's not totally clear what he is saying here, but here is video of him emerging from a police car and being ushered into the jailhouse where he...
All right, get to the Bill Burr
problems.
part.
This means you get to shoot people. which is had some sort of surfing accident where he had a really bad back injury that apparently left him in crippling pain. And he had a surgery that is very often unsuccessful that implanted a series of pins in his spine. And he presumably was having some sort of fights with some health insurance company, but that is totally unclear. And he did leave a manifesto. His manifesto is very short. It's 262 words. And it is worth exploring because it is a window into the mind of people who tend to believe that because the world is filled with problems, this means you get to shoot people, which is unfortunately a growing sentiment on the left and even some parts of the right. So here is what...
There's something so funny about Ben saying this because, like, has there been a right-wing shooter that Ben hasn't said is good? Like, when right-wingers engage in vigilante justice against those who are powerless, ultimately, Ben loves that shit. He loves it all day, every day. He hypes that shit up. Ben loves it when Israel is shooting. Ben loves it when Israel kills children, Israel shoots children, Israel fucking snipes children. He loves that shit.
Complex, but I do not have the space and frankly do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. In other words, he didn't have a solution for any of the health insurance problems in the country. And those problems are quite real because the United States has a very heavily subsidized and regulated healthcare system. Insurance is not actually insurance. It's actually just health coverage. Insurance, as we mentioned yesterday on the show, would imply that you are making a bet with the insurance company that something bad might happen to you, and the insurance company is betting that it will not happen to you. That is obviously not how healthcare works in the United States, because no company in their right mind would bet that, for example, you won't need a checkup next week. Right? That would be a stupid bet. So this isn't insurance at all. It's health coverage that is provided at discount based on government subsidy and also based on collective risk pooling. Okay, that's actually how the system works, and the system doesn't work particularly well in a lot of ways.
I love that he's going back to his roots. This is extremely my shit. This is old hat Ben. This is how he used to do. This is the commentary they used to get out of him. For people who wanted to come across as like intelligent. He is going to try to explain away the concept of insurance in the United States of America and basically defend it on principle to say that like it must exist and it's good that it exists and that it's actually a lot better in America than the way that you think it is. To an audience who's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You can't, this is literally fucking Vibe Session 2.0. This is like when the Will Stancils of the world try to explain away to the fucking average working class person who's like, dog, everything is so expensive. What the fuck is going on? That it's just in your mind, actually. You don't understand. It's just in your mind.
It works better than many of the other systems, including nationalized healthcare. But the point there is that the alleged shooter himself.
Okay, where are the facts for that? You got any facts for that? It works better than other systems, including nationalized healthcare? So what kind of facts is Ben representing for this? Does he have any facts at all? It works better than any other OECD nation? It doesn't.
Is angry at a system that he says he does not fully understand and he has no proper solutions for. And by the way, he happens to be wrong on the merits. So when he says that the United States has the most expensive healthcare system in the world, but we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy, there's an excellent thread from a person named Jeremy.
Wait, he's right. What the fuck?
Kaufman, laying out some of the statistics with regard to the United States healthcare system. And the point that he makes is that healthcare spending in all countries tracks income. In other words, the more people get rich, the more they spend on healthcare. And this is true across countries. Here, for example, is a chart of health spending increasing rapidly with real income.
Wait a minute. So our healthcare is more costly because we're richer. Sure, there is a level of that. It's somewhat understandable. We're a richer nation, which means that we have, the pay for doctors is going to be higher. Fine, fair, okay. The pay for a nurse is going to be higher than other countries. Fair, okay. Wages. But there's no reason for the fucking same medicine that's going to the United States to be an entirely different price point. It's the same medicine going to the European markets. I wonder why it's so much more expensive in the United States of America. Oftentimes, the distribution patents are not even held by the same companies, for the record. American healthcare, the American pharmaceutical market is so busted that the distribution patent for the United States of America and Canada is oftentimes separate from the distribution patent for the entire fucking planet. That's how large of a market the American healthcare market is, the American pharmaceutical market is. So what the fuck's that about? How does that work? Anyway, in terms of healthcare spending increases rapidly with real incomes, this is only part of the equation, just so you understand.
So if, for example, you live in Hungary and you have a significantly lower income, you're going to spend less on your healthcare. And as your income rises, you're going to spend more on your healthcare. That is true everywhere. It is true in Norway. It is true in Canada. It is true in Italy. It is true in Spain. It is true everywhere. It is almost a straight line arithmetic correlation here. That as you make more money, you spend more money on your healthcare, which of course makes sense because you care very deeply about your healthcare. That is not a giant shock. As it turns out, if you actually correlate healthcare costs.
What's funny about this is that, yes, what he's describing is normal market conditions, except given the factor that inelastic demand exists in healthcare, as in, if you don't have healthcare, you fucking die, okay? Other countries, other OECD nations that are on that list have actually either so severely regulated their marketplaces because of that inelastic demand, or just have some semblance of socialized structure there. That is exactly what keeps those prices down. It's not just about wage increases that cause healthcare costs to go up, okay? His argument hinges on the crazy idea that $100,000 of MRI is more healthcare than an MRI that costs $10,000. Exactly. In many instances, the procedure is the same procedure, but the price is infinitely higher. But this is the idiotic chart that Matty Iglesias put forth that is so easily destroyed. Two charts you need to look at simultaneously to understand. Americans spend far more than foreigners out-of-pocket for healthcare. Americans have a relatively low out-of-pocket share of healthcare spending. This is a fucking insane thing. Average out-of-pocket health spending per capita, Americans spend far more than most of these other countries, okay? Household out-of-pocket spending as a share of current health expenditures, on the other hand, is much lower. It's using a logarithmic y-axis and a linear x-axis. It's not really an exponential relationship and not linear. Yeah. The problem is, if an American goes to the doctor and gets billed $10,000 but has insurance that covers $6,000 of it, and a European goes to the doctor and gets billed $65 and doesn't have insurance, Matt Iglesias thinks that that American is getting a better deal. So why is it that Matt Iglesias thought that this would be a fantastic fucking way to stop people from getting mad at their health care? Like how? Yeah. Getting $10,000 bill for the MRI econ, bro. You have simply consumed more MRI than any other nation. Yeah, this is the Jeremy Kauffman take that everyone is dunking on. The U.S. spends more money on healthcare because it consumes more. Or the richer the country is, the more healthcare it consumes. You don't understand, you fool, you idiot. The same procedure is simply you're doing more of it. It's the same fucking procedure. You can literally track this against pharmaceutical costs. It's the same drug. It's literally the same drug. There is no reason. There's no reason for an American to pay more for the same fucking drug. It's not a different drug. It's not a better drug. And if you actually look at the healthcare outcomes overall, because we're so bad, because our life expectancy is so much worse than other comparable OECD nations, we must be taking the worst drugs, I guess. Well, the reality is we're not taking the drugs at all. That is the problem. I think in the most conservative estimates, 20 to 30% of the overall untimely demise comes from, I think, a lack of health care. And that's the most conservative estimates, 30%. There's obviously plenty of other factors that play into our life expectancy being low. Some of the most immediate factors are mass availability of guns, another problem that we will never fix because gun violence is actually responsible for the death of many people before they die at the normal age that they would die. Our bad diets are some of the invisible factors at play here. Even non-walkable cities devoid of public transit factors into why American life expectancy is so low. There's also the opiate crisis. It's true. There are many factors that go into our life expectancy. All right. Having said that, however, healthcare is also horrible. So Ben's argument is fucking idiotic here.
With income, what you see is that income rises, so does healthcare costs. Again, not a giant shock. In rich country, labor costs more. Inputs cost more. The real price of healthcare increases actually slower than incomes in cross-section.
Wait, I don't understand though. Like if a drug is being produced and manufactured in America, why is it fucking cheaper when European marketplaces buy that same drug? Why is it 10x in America? Please, Ben, explain this to me. I don't understand.
Sectional analysis. So as income in the United States increases, so does healthcare price, but slower than income increases in the United States. Not only that, you can see in surgical prices that there is correlation between income and the price of surgery, for example. Because again, as people make more money, they also demand more money as the inputs on labor. If you are a surgeon in the United States and the average income is $80,000 a year, you're going to make more money than in a country where the average income is $40,000 a year. That is not a shock. Straight line correlation. Cesarean sections are more expensive in Norway, where the income is higher, than in Israel, where the
it's just that the doctor wages are too high. I mean, that's a part of it. That's definitely a part of it, but not the only part of it. Seems to me like if we care about fucking efficiency, as Ben claims he does, then we should maybe cut out this ineffective middleman that is just simply expanding prices for no reason. Also, that a bunch of shareholders that have bought into this expensive, unnecessary middleman turn profit year over year. I think the funniest part about this is that not only is Ben wrong, but it's also funny because even if he was right, people would just be like, what the fuck are you saying? Are you saying that the healthcare system is good? Are you stupid? Of course you think the healthcare system is good, Ben. You're fucking rich. You're rich as fuck. And part of your wealth directly comes from you defending private capitalist interests like this.
income is lower. Appendectomies are more expensive in Australia, where the income is higher, than Korea, where the income is lower. And none of this is a giant shock. In other words, the market mechanisms
like you're talking about market mechanisms in socialized medicine. The out-of-pocket cost for a Norwegian cesarean section is $0. The out-of-pocket cost for an American cesarean section is, I don't even know what it is, but it's fucking obviously way more expensive. So for the average consumer, that's all they fucking care about, dumbass. That's the whole point. And the argument is that if the government was actually paying for it, like in many of these other socialized systems, when they actually have the welfare of the public in mind, that they would take action to ensure that there was more public welfare. They would also take action when bulk purchasing pharmaceutical prices that enter the market. And in that process, they would ensure that those prices are kept as low as physically possible. America's the largest consumption engine on the planet. We have a lot of leverage. If we had an actual socialized pharmaceutical structure or socialized medicine in this country, we could just say, oh, dude, you're not entering the American marketplace unless you fucking literally give us the same price that you're giving to Europe. It is ridiculous. But I've heard Ben advocate against that as well with silly ass notions like America subsidizes the rest of the planet's healthcare. It's fucking bullshit, by the way. That's a lie. It's a straightforward lie. And the very fact that that's a American Enterprise Institute talking point that Ben regurgitates all the time is really stupid. Yep. In spite of Americans paying nearly double that of other countries, the system performed poorly on health equity, access to care, and outcomes. Less than 10% of health dollars go to physicians, 7.3% to be precise. The idea from Eric Levitz et al. That cutting healthcare costs must come from cutting physicians' salary and no place else is hilarious. I think many specialists earn too much, but let's be serious here, people. Yeah. Anyway.
Continue to function in the sense that as people make more money and as they spend more money, the costs go up. Most importantly, the idea that profits are radically high in health services is not true. Profits in health services are actually lower than in many other areas of the American economy.
Dude, I hate this shit. I don't care. There should be no profits. That's it. What do you mean profits are not high enough? You die if you don't get it. It's so stupid. Oh man, I'm so sad how fucking low the profits are for the healthcare industry. Okay, let the goddamn government handle it then, bitch. What the fuck is this argument? What is this argument?
So if you look at hospitals and nursing and residential care facilities, the profits are somewhere in the neighborhood of 2% to 5%, somewhere in that neighborhood. If you look at construction, they're way higher than that. Profits are really, really high in manufacturing, for example, but they're not particularly high in the healthcare industry, again, because of regulation and subsidization. So why exactly is it that we spend so much money?
Oh, he's saying profits are not high for healthcare because of regulation and subsidization. Ben's advocacy is to fucking make it even more costly. If left up to Ben, he doesn't even want fucking regulation. Not entirely certain how subsidization is actually making profits low, but it also doesn't entirely make sense because, yes, for example, United Healthcare's profit margins are 6%. This is profit margins, okay? These are profit margins. United Healthcare's profit margins are 6%. That's $33 billion in profit. $33 billion! What do you think has a higher profit margin? What I do as a Twitch streamer or United Healthcare? My profit margin is fucking insanely high. What do you think brings in more revenue overall? What a stupid fucking argument. United Healthcare alone is the 4th most profitable company. Yes, it deals in $500 billion in overall revenue. Just because this manufacturing as an industry is above all this other shit does not mean that, like, you know, manufacturing as an entire sector is raking in trillions of fucking dollars in profit in the same way that healthcare is. Just because the profit rate is low doesn't mean that they're not making a shit ton of money. Also, one thing to remember always is profits are a fucking stupid way of looking at this because companies are incentivized to keep profit rates low anyway. Their jobs are to still, like, executive compensation is before profits come in. Like, all of this other shit that they're buying, mergers and acquisitions, all of that, stock buybacks, these are before profits. So just because a company's profit margins are low doesn't mean that it could not have been higher year over year. Also, this isn't even insurance. This is just hospitals and nursing and residential care facilities, which Ogre is right. I didn't even fucking realize. This is not even health insurance. But health insurance is there. It's at 6%. For United Healthcare, it's at 6%. That's what their profit margin is. Yeah, United paid out $10 billion in dividends last year alone, which isn't calculated in profits.
Industry, again, because of regulation and subsidization. So why exactly is it that we spend so much money, but we get so little input in terms of our health expectancy rising, our life expectancy rising? Well, number one, there is in fact a law of diminishing returns when it comes to healthcare spending. It's true across countries. At a certain point, a massive increase in healthcare spending only leads to a marginal increase in life expectancy. And this is not just true of the United States, it's true literally everywhere. So for example, the cross-sectional relationship in terms of how much you spend on care and the outcome is totally flat. So the life expectancy in, for example, Israel and Luxembourg is totally the same, but the health expenditure per capita is wildly different. So Israel is spending about $2,500 health expenditure per capita, and the life expectancy in Israel is...
Wait, where's America on this list? Where's America on this list? Also, this is from 2011? Maybe it's not from 2011. It's from 2011 dollars.
About 82 and a half years. Same exact life expectancy in Luxembourg, except they're spending $6,500 per capita. Because it turns out, no matter what you do with medicine, you simply can't prolong life beyond a certain point on average. So what's the big problem in the United States?
Oh, okay, great. Then we should pay less then. Don't you like efficiency? That's why we have the life expectancy and good health metric.
It's why does the United States have a lower life expectancy? Well, there are a bunch of reasons, but the biggest reasons are we do a lot of drugs, we're really fat, and we drive badly. Those would be the...
No, it's car-dependent infrastructure. It is, opiates are a problem for sure. Opiate deaths are that rob people of their lives, cause people to have their lives cut short. And yes, our bad food habits, our bad consumption habits also play a big role. It's not because we drive badly. It's because we don't have fucking adequate public transit, dumbass. Something that you advocate against all day, every day. Americans have an incredibly fucking car-reliant infrastructure. We don't have any public transit. We don't have walkable cities. And also, notice how Ben didn't mention another thing. interpersonal violence. Why is that red one so large in comparison to all these other countries? It's because of gun violence. It's because of guns, Ben. It's because of guns. People are committing suicide with guns. People are dying in mass shootings. There's a lot of gun violence in this fucking country.
The big reasons. We lose in the United States about a year and a half.
Americans also have an insane level of drinking and driving. No, dog. It's because there's no other fucking transit. That's the whole point. That's what I mean. Car-reliant infrastructure understandably causes more vehicular manslaughter. Because when there's no alternative, when there's no fucking car, when there's no bus you can take, when there's no train you can take, you drive. And when you drive and you spend more time driving, you have a higher likelihood of, getting in a car accident. Yeah, we also have these like big ass militarized American vehicles that are more dangerous too, where you can't see children under the hood because it's so fucking high. Ben looks at this graph and says, it's because Americans are making wrong choices. They're individually driving poorly, and they're individually choosing to be fat, and they're individually choosing to do drugs. That's the problem. Ben is looking at systemic failure and reducing it down to individual responsibility. This is an idiotic way to try and approach any problem whatsoever. Because how do you instill individual responsibility upon every single individual? You do it through regulation. You do it through laws. That's why we have seatbelt laws, for example. The notion that this is all caused by 300 million individuals individually choosing to be fucking fat and driving poorly is idiotic. What is it? The Canadian mind is just simply better than the American mind? Is that what it is? Is it because people in Finland, people in Belgium simply are just like more brilliant than the average American, that they're making the right choices? No, it's because their society is structured with more competent governance that has people's welfare in mind. It's so stupid thinking the American skull is shaped differently, Ultimately, reducing everything down to the individual responsibility means that there is some sort of genetic predisposition that the American mind has, and it's not something you can solve through some kind of like regulation. It's fucking stupid.
In life expectancy on average, through drugs, car accidents, and violence, and we happen to be really fat. Okay, we have a huge diet metabolic problem in the United States. In fact, it has almost a 6-year decrease in life expectancy in the United States thanks to diet and metabolic, because we're real fat in the United States. Okay, so none of this is to ignore the problems in the healthcare system.
Like the idea, this is Ben just like shitting on Americans across the board. This is the most anti-American thing you can say, by the way. And it's kind of funny that like supposedly these patriotic fucking dipshits get away with saying it all the time. That Americans are just like stupider, fatter, dumber than the average European. Is that what you're saying? Or are they just victims of circumstance? They exist in America. Like, I know I joke about Amerifats and AmeriKKK or whatever the fuck, but like ultimately I do recognize that most people cannot overcome the structures that bind them, okay? That's it. So Ben is just simply saying Americans are just too stupid. They just eat like shit. They're fucking dumb. They're stupid. What a ridiculous statement.
It is to point out that whenever anyone suggests that there are easy solutions and they are only barred by the evil of greedy health insurance companies, they are lying. It is not true. It is over.
I mean, it would be an easy solution if people like you weren't so resistant to it and desperately trying to fucking delude people into thinking that it's somehow their own fault, their own personal fault.
Overtly false. Okay, that's true whether the shooter is saying it while murdering somebody. The alleged shooter is saying that while murdering somebody. It is also true whether you are a comedian or a political commentator. So this brings us to Bill Burr. So I have to say, Bill Burr is an... Okay, so Bill Burr, I used to really enjoy his work. I mean, on occasion, I still enjoy his work. He's a comedian, which means he's very hit or miss. His Red Rock special, for example, hilarious. I'm such a Bill Burr fan that I actually bought a ticket for me and my wife and 2 of our friends to go see Bill Burr at the Hard Rock Casino down here in Hollywood, Florida. And I have to say, it was one of the worst shows I ever saw in my life.
He's woke. Let me guess. He's woke. Bill Burr has become woke. Folks, I used to be a fan of Bill Burr, but then I found out he got hit with a woke ray. Wokeism.
Because he got up there, and Bill Burr has become woked. He has become woked, I assume, because his wife is very much on the left. Over time, I think he became embarrassed.
Wait, his wife? What do you mean by that, Ben? What do you mean his wife? The lovely Nia? Let's look it up. Oh, that's what he means. Oh, so that's what Ben means when he says his wife. Okay. Weird, because they've been married since 2013, and I'm pretty sure the Red Rock special was way after that. It was only a couple years ago, as a matter of fact. So I don't know where the fuck he's coming from. Huh. Interesting.
That many people on the right thought he was very funny, and so he decided that he was going to start woking.
Yeah, Bill Burr, picture with infamous leftist Patrice O'Neill. There he is, woking Bill Burr. There he is, wokeifying Bill Burr. Bill, get away from this man. He's gonna woke you. You're gonna get woked out.
Woking it up. Well, Bill Burr is a disappointment, sort of like incognito mode on your computer, because they keep telling you that everything you do.
Wait, did he just do a fucking? Shut the fuck up. He just said some heinous racist shit and then immediately sidestepped into an ExpressVPN ad. Are you fucking joking? There ain't no way, dog. He was like, Bill Burr's got a black wife. Also, ExpressVPN. God damn.
Because his jokes were basically about how Floridians were a bunch of anti-gay racists. And Floridians were like, that's not true. There are a lot of gay people who live down here and a lot of Hispanics and black people who live down here. And in fact, the room is filled with Jews. Right? And so he actually got so frustrated, he ended up cutting his show early and walking off the stage. And the reason was he was totally disconnected from the audience. Well, that disconnect has continued. You'll remember that he appeared on Bill Maher's show where he declared solidarity with the pro-Hamas students on campus.
Bro, these are broadly popular positions, man. You can't just you can't just wish cast a different interpretation of all the things that people are looking at and going like, no, this is actually kind of fucked up. It's so funny. He's like, no, you don't understand. Everybody loves Israel. Everybody in America loves Israel. And you should kill people who protest against them. Yeah, Bill Burr also didn't declare solidarity. He literally says students have been historically right, so these guys are probably right too. It's so funny. Ben's entire shtick is just like being an annoying fucking loser who tries to tell you in many different words, in the nerdiest aesthetic possible, that like things will never be better. And you should stop focusing on trying to change the system and get mad at random gay people instead. And like, sure, there's a faucet of that kind of commentary out there. And I'm sure, it's done him favors so far. But, turning around and shitting on Bill Burr, especially in this moment where he's like, obviously talking about why people feel resentful towards healthcare CEOs and whatnot, because, they're murderers themselves. It's like the fucking mob. It's correct. Perhaps that's the reason why he didn't play Bill Burr's clip.
Campus. And now he is proclaiming that he is very happy that CEOs are walking around in fear for their lives. Okay, now, you do get some extra points for being a comedian in today's day and age, meaning that we'll tend to give you some more leeway to say edgy things because you're trying to be funny. And it's not clear to me here that Bill Burr is attempting to be funny. This is just his actual political opinion. He's not saying anything funny or insightful here. Here is Bill Burr yesterday explaining that he is perfectly fine with CEOs having to live with full-time security because they fear they might be shot because, after all, they're murderers too.
Oh, my God. Oh, the poor CEOs. Oh, the poor CEOs. Good luck, Ben. Good luck on this endeavor. I'm sure you're gonna fucking really get your audience riled up. The poor CEOs, they're scared for their life. They should be able to kill people. I don't understand. What do the comments look like? No, they're fucking shitting on him. I feel like I'm being gaslit. He's suggesting that the CEO of the biggest healthcare insurance company in the U.S. has zero effect on anything around him. Invite Bill on your show, I dare you. It's absolutely rich when Ben says things like, just because you had a bad experience with a health insurance company, having a bad experience with a health insurance company isn't like a barista messing up your morning coffee and you hope to get a better one tomorrow. These bad experiences result in people losing their loved ones and being denied or prolonged life-saving medication and procedures. Hey, Ben, how are you going to get legislation changed when the very people who are responsible for changing legislation are being bought and paid for by pharma and insurance companies? This is a rich guy trying to say insurance companies are justified charging you thousands of dollars for a hospital visit. I agree with Bill Burr. As a former cancer patient, each chemotherapy session infusion bag I remember was $20,000 billed to insurance. Coverage for my husband's asthma inhaler was denied this month and for the first time ever. He's had the same script for 25 plus years. Too many ads. I don't even like watching Ben anymore. It's hard to keep track of the stories when he's dropping ads right in the middle of each story. How about putting the ads in between the stories instead? If our healthcare system works so well, why do so many people hate it? Love how you didn't show the full quote. The media is completely out of touch and is an insult to the American people and their lived experiences. Ben, the average working person has little to no voice in these systems. It is obvious. Dude, imagine how fucking right-wing normally YouTube comments are. And I'm willing to bet that a big chunk, I mean, these guys aren't fucking socialists going into the comments of Ben Shapiro to literally turn around and be like, oh, I'm actually a right-winger. Like, they're not lying. These are right-wingers. These are not just right-wingers. They're like annoying right-wingers. They're the type of right-wingers that go and get their notes from fucking Ben Shapiro. It's a real unique kind of right-winger. Also, Bill Burr's been talking about executing CEOs and hunting them down for years. Here it is.
They focus on. You know what I mean? There's a guy from Nestle that doesn't think water is a human right. I mean, that guy should be hunted down and shot. Yeah. Right? And they're going to sit and just talk about, talking about all the, I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, we got to get America back to work.
It's like, dude, this guy wants to own the rain. Can we do something about this guy? He was at Nestle. You're supposed to be happy, like making cocoa for people. And this guy's like going, well, people are running out of water. What if we owned all the water and we kept it under our place? And in the future, when everybody's, that's how you picture the guy talking. I want to own the water. I want to have it underneath my house. And just, I'll come to the door in a robe, slightly ajar. Right? Just a complete animal.
Just a complete animal. Yeah, Mr. Woke, dude. Yeah, it's Bill Burr that's woke. It's not Ben that's quote unquote woke in this situation, wokely scolding people for feeling some type of way about the way the current insurance structure is so damaging to the average person's life.
I don't believe that Bill Burr holds the same standard for comedians. There's an argument that's been made by the left. It is a crap argument when made about comedians, and it's a crap argument when made about CEOs. The argument goes something like this on the left. People like Bill Burr mock the vulnerable. They mock the marginalized. And thus,
I shit on those people all the time. Whenever people come for Bill Burr, I tell them to shut the fuck up. This is part of the reason why. Because, once again, 1, he's a comedian. 2, he is a fucking asshole. 3, you don't have to agree with everything he says. But most people don't actually get up in their feelings about Bill Burr, which is ironic because you're getting in your feelings about Bill Burr right now. You're woke. You're a fucking SJW, Ben. Radlibs get mad about Bill Burr. Who gives a fuck? Fuck him. It's just noise.
thus they are a danger to the vulnerable and the marginalized. So presumably...
Yeah. He's literally mad that Bill Burr isn't pro-Israel. Like, that's the most SJW branded shit you could do, dumbass. I can't believe it. Bill Burr wants Hamas students to kill me. Bill Burr is in support of student protesters that said what Israel is doing is wrong. How could you hurt Israel's feelings? Bill Burr, how could you hurt the CEO's feelings? What a bitch. Yeah. When you're a right winger, it's awesome because you literally, your priorities are completely busted. It's just out of whack. Where you're like, no, it's not the underserved poor, okay, yearning for freedom. It's not those who are getting bombed into fucking bits by America's greatest ally, Israel, that are actually those who are marginalized. It's the fucking CEOs. And it's actually the fascist state of Israel. Those are the poor people that must be defended at all costs. It's the wealthiest people in society that we must protect. Fuck.
Bill Burr should have to live in fear of making a joke. Bill Burr should have to live in fear because he doesn't know who he's damaging. In any case, here is Bill Burr openly cheering the murder.
It took him 14 minutes to get to this fucking Bill Burr clip, by the way.
Of a United Health executive because he says CEOs should live in fear if they don't act in the way that he would have them act in a system that he has no fixes for, by the way.
You know, I think you don't like his fixes.
What's annoying me about this kid who killed this CEO is none of these news programs are talking about the incredible lack of empathy from the general public about this because of how these insurance companies treat people when they are at their most vulnerable, after we've all given them our money every month and now we finally need you and all you do is deny us. And then all of these things are taking the pictures of their CEOs off their websites. You know, I got to be honest with you, okay? I love that CEOs are afraid right now. You should be. By and large, you're all a bunch of selfish, greedy pieces of shit. And a lot of you are mass murderers. You just don't pull the trigger. That's why it looks clean. That's why these people look, oh my God, he was just, walking into a hotel. It's like, okay, but what was his job? What did he do? What was the results of it?
Okay, Bill Burr is a piece of... Okay, well, what he is saying here is truly evil. He's truly evil. He's saying you should live in fear if you're the CEO of a company and that company does things that...
Dude, imagine posting this and then thinking this makes Bill Burr look bad and not you for criticizing this in the most annoying ways possible. Oh my God, I can't believe this very popular, beloved comedian is saying what the overwhelming majority of American society believe. How dare he? These guys are so primed to hate CNN, so at least you should take your cues from fucking CNN. When you notice yourself making an argument that is identical to CNN, maybe you'll realize that you're out of touch. This is not any different than what CNN is saying, Ben. This isn't any different than what fucking New York Times is saying. Same shit when it comes to Israel too, by the way. Just remember, these guys, they're not so different.
Bill Burr deems to be bad things. Now, we have laws on the books, for example, that prevent things like fraud. Okay? We have laws on the books that prevent things like embezzlement. We have laws on...
Yeah, and they do a fantastic job. Oh, wait, no, they don't, because the structure is designed by rich people. The very fact that healthcare is for profit is already ridiculous to begin with. It is indicative that the system is a failure overall.
On the books that punish criminal activity. If you don't like the system, and many people don't, the proper response to that system would be legislation. In a democratic republic, the way that you fix problems is you have open discussions of the details of those problems, and then you try to craft regulatory or legal fixes. You do not...
Which I will stop every step of the way. If you ever suggest that something should change, I will tell you, you're wrong.
Not say that it is a good thing that CEOs should live in fear of their...
Yeah, everyone complaining about the shooting is top 3% of wealth in America. Straight up. Or a loyal servant of the interests of the top 1%.
Their lives because Bill Burr deems them morally inferior. Bill Burr doing his blue-collar class routine act is a bunch of horse. Bill Burr is worth $14 million, and he makes his money making crap movies for Netflix at this point.
You're richer than Bill Burr. Yeah, he's a rich guy who gets it. You're an even richer guy who doesn't. What's the argument? This is so funny whenever people are like, wow, the kid was from a rich family. Luigi was from a rich family. Isn't that crazy? It's like, okay, motherfucker, how rich are you? Like, what are we doing? What is this pocket watching? Like, this is something that I will never understand. Like, what is the expectation here? That he should shut the fuck up and defend the CEOs instead? Is that what it is? Is that what the argument is? I love it because, for obvious reasons, I have a very deep and personal connection to this line of criticism because it's probably the one that I get every single fucking day. It's like, oh, you're rich. Why do you advocate for the poor? It's like, okay, I'm not black, but I advocate against anti-black racism. I'm not trans. I advocate against transphobia. I'm not a woman. I advocate against patriarchal constructs that harm women. I'm not getting an abortion anytime fucking soon, but I think women should have bodily autonomy. The fuck is this? Yeah. What is why do you bring this up? Why do you bring this up? Is it the expectation? Is it your expectation that I fucking stay in line? Is it your expectation that Bill Burr know his place and defend the interests of the wealthy then? It's so stupid. It's just a thing that literally hangs right there. There's no purpose for this statement. None whatsoever. It only makes sense if you're wealthy and you're advocating for the interests of wealthy. In that sense, it does make sense. Okay? In that avenue, it makes sense. Like Ben Shapiro, who is even wealthier than both myself and Bill Burr combined times 10. And of course, as a very rich guy, he's advocating for the interests of the wealthy. As a CEO, he's advocating for other CEOs. But it doesn't make sense to bring this up about Bill Burr. Unless you're trying to say you're out of touch with the interests of the average person.
Again, this basic idea, if we're going to have a functioning country, you can't justify the murder of people who run their businesses legally in ways with which you disagree. It is one thing to disagree with them. You can call them whatever you want. When you start justifying them living in fear or suggesting maybe they should be murdered, I'm just wondering what the limiting principle here is. I'm wondering what it is. The alleged shooter in this case was echoing Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. The Unabomber suggested that if you were, for example, an oil executive, maybe you should be murdered. Because after all, there were externalities to the oil industry. Why not the banking industry? Why not? Maybe Bill Burr doesn't like the banks after all.
Ben, if I were you, I wouldn't be making this argument, big dog. I'm just being real. I'm keeping it $1.50 because shit like this is not going to be read in the way that you want it to. You know, when you say stuff like that, not recognizing that the appetite that broader American society at this point has, because they're just holding on by a fucking thread, you know, especially when previous members of your community have gone out and done hate crimes and shit. So there's at least a couple incidents that have already occurred. You've already agitated enough mass shootings. You don't want to say stuff like, you should probably be a little bit more careful and considerate about the way you talk about these things. I myself am going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say I do not condone what Ben Shapiro is saying. I condemn it.
That bank denied grandma her loan. So maybe Jamie Dimon should be tracked down and murdered. This kind of stuff is full stop evil. It is evil. I don't care what complaints you have with the health insurance company. The notion.
I can't believe.
Because after all, there were externalities to the oil industry. Why not the banking industry? Why not? Maybe Bill Burr doesn't like the banks after all. That bank denied grandma her loan. So maybe Jamie Dimon should be tracked down and murdered. This kind of stuff.
No, Ben, no, Ben, stop. Ben! 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 Stop! That's crazy, man.
Of all violence. Unfortunately, it's not just Bill Burr. It is so many members of the elite of our society. The people who are fine living with private security.
Bro, you're elite. You're elite. You're elite. Shut the fuck up.
They make millions of dollars saying things on TV. It's not just Bill Burr here. Okay, it is also Jimmy Kimmel. So Jimmy Kimmel last night decided that he would do an entire segment celebrating the good looks of.
Oh, it's so fucking lame. This is exactly the type of shit that these guys normally grab onto and rail against all the time. All the goddamn time, dude. Also, the New York Times instructed staff to avoid publishing photos of Luigi Mangione's face. Internal company messages leaked to me reveal. And it turns out it was because they thought it was unhelpful and unproductive. If you visit the New York Times front page story today of the shooter, it features Mangione's back as he was being marched to his arraignment. Another Times story today on Mangione's notebook features a photo of a generic police tape barricade. The media paternalism at its worst. The idea that seeing the shooter's face too much or reading this 262-word statement will necessarily inspire copycat assassinations and therefore should be withheld from the public. My publication on Mangione's manifesto yesterday came after multiple journals and companies like the New York Times and NBC told me that their outlets were in possession of the manifesto but would not be publishing it. These outlets were perfectly happy to quote selectively from the document, as CNN did, insisting that the contents merely showed how unwell the shooter was. Flagrant editorializing. That's the problem with selective disclosure. It shapes the narrative in subtle ways that can be misleading. National security officialdom, from cops to CIA, are masters at this. Take, for example, what is perhaps the most storied photograph in CIA lore, the above picture of 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. The photo depicts him as disheveled and disoriented, having been taken the morning he was rousted out of his bed in the middle of the night in Pakistan in 2003. Overweight and donning a ratty undershirt, the deer in headlights picture delighted CIA public affairs, who decided to circulate it widely to undermine the image of al-Qaeda's omnipotence, thereby proving that the spy agency could dispense justice. Now the New York Times is putting its own thumb on the information scale, having appointed itself an enforcer of public safety. The news value and public service of showing his face is declining, Times photo editor Clinton Cargill wrote yesterday morning. I think we will still not pub the whole thing, editor Andrea Canapel added, so as to not provide bullhorn. Reddit is also blocking the manifesto, as though some of these like incredibly basic things that were mentioned in the manifesto are truths that are far too scary for the average person to recognize, when in fact, the average person didn't need to read the manifesto or even hear about the background of the shooter to immediately understand. We didn't even know who the shooter was. It literally took 3 seconds. As soon as people understood who the victim was in this situation, they were like, oh, I know exactly what happened. One must ask the question, why? Why is it that as soon as people knew who the victim was, they were like, oh, I know exactly what happened. Meanwhile, the New York Times wrote this fantastic article. Brian Thompson, not Luigi Mangione, is the real working class hero. I suspect it dives into Thompson's background, growing up in a working class family in Jewell, Iowa, a tiny farming community north of Des Moines. Let them eat cake. Why the Queen's pastry makers are the true working class heroes of France.
As the CEO of a health insurance company in the UK, I was deeply disturbed by the unaliving of one of our colleagues in the industry over in New York just a few days ago. But I'm even more disgusted and alarmed by the response to that terrible unaliving incident in New York on TikTok here. The jovial celebration of this horrendous act, the martyring of this insane, psychopathic maniac who did this, just because he didn't understand how insurance works or how the insurance industry works, okay? Yes, 20% of claims don't go through at United Healthcare, but 80% of them do, okay? 80% of the people who claimed got the healthcare they needed and all of their costs were paid for. £500,000 for cancer treatment? Paid. Paid. We are paying for people's healthcare. We're not taking it away from them. If you don't like that, if you don't like us, find another company, okay? It's not okay to start unaliving CEOs. CEO lives matter. CEOs are people just like you, with families, with dreams, with needs, with desires, with goals, with aspirations, with the will, the yearning to help, provide vastly reduced health costs to individuals, to you, the smooth brains, wishing for our demise. We care about you, all right? So have a little bit of respect back for us. Now, I got bumped into last week in this car, and I got a small dent in the back of the car. It was my fault. I didn't have my fog lights on, you know, and I took the hit for that. Does that mean I'm then going to go to Aviva Car Insurance and start unaliving people? No, it doesn't. That's wrong. It's immoral. You're all morons. And I really do think a lot of the people celebrating what's happened here need to be investigated. There needs to be some kind of list, because it's not okay. TikTok needs to take action.